What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new live episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today. We got honorable mentions, 6 incredible topics, along with your live viewer questions, as we're going to go ahead and dive into some Superman, as we wind up getting ourselves a brand new teaser trailer, along with some brand new details from James Gunn himself. We're also going to be diving a little bit deeper into Daredevil Born Again in regards to how that particular series has really come along. We also got ourselves a brand new trailer for Karate Kid Legends as well, along with a fantastic interview and a ton more, guys. So sit back, relax, have your coffee ready. We're going to get into it. So we'll see you on the other side. What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? Welcome to another weekend episode of A-Plus Hero Report, live for you guys today on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. It is I, your host, Adam Perez, back once again with our co-host, as always, Stuart Branscombe. What's going on, Stu? Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, good to be back. Good to see you. How have you been the last week?
Not too bad. Getting prepped for Christmas. Work's been kind of hectic, so it's just been like a one-man show for me since some people are taking some vacation off for the holidays. But I got the opportunity to see, what did I see this weekend? I saw Kraven the Hunter this week, along with the War of the Rohirrim. So I dropped a War of Rohirrim trailer a review up on our page. Haven't dropped a Kraven one yet. Maybe I'll go ahead and do that later this week. But I did do some editing on a video that's set to drop for us tomorrow. We have officially ranked our most anticipated movies from last year, 2024. If you guys recall, we did do a top 5 most anticipated for 2024, and we decided to rank them at the end of the year to see what made the cut and if they held up to the order in which we set them in. So that is set to go ahead and drop tomorrow for you guys at noon, and then for a New Year's Eve present, or a New Year's present, if you will, next Monday, we will be dropping our top 5 most anticipated for 2025. So looking forward to a lot of content certainly headed your way. But what you been up to, Stu? How's work been?
Man, not much. Work has actually suddenly slowed down, and it all started Thursday because Mufasa has not been doing good at our theater at all.
Womp womp.
Like even slow movies usually break 100 at our theater on weekends if it's in theater one. No, this movie only broke 40 once. I think during the prime round yesterday, it got to 44, but it's been so slow that we actually had to cancel one of our show times because it was going to cost us more money to stay open late than it would have if we just turned the projector off.
Oh wow, is that a thing? I feel bad sometimes when I go to the movie theaters and it's just me. It's like a late showing at 10 something, and it's just like me, just a one seat person. I'm like, man, they got to play this whole entire movie for me. I got to think that has them rolling their eyes, or like, man, can I just go home already, sort of thing. Is that a thing?
It only at our theater, and that's just because if we're keeping theater one specifically, which is our big theater, open, basically it's not only because of the power for the projector, but also we're paying to keep the entire kitchen staff there late. We're also paying for whoever might be working that theater to stay there late, and a bunch of other things. So I think it's really more just our theater. Most theaters will usually shut down the projector if a movie goes about 10 minutes into feature and no one's bought a ticket for it, then they'll shut it down. But yeah, for us, it was just because of how much it costs to keep a theater keep a auditorium going, specifically with kind of labor costs and that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I don't feel as bad now. I don't feel as bad.
Yeah. Because whenever I go to a theater and I'm the only one in there, I actually love it. It almost feels like I got my own private screening. I love that feeling.
Yeah, I absolutely do love that feeling for sure. Yeah, man, it's good to see you. We've got a ton of reviews that dropped this week. Again, we also wind up dropping our Skeleton Crew episode 4 review. Stuart did with us, and the rest of the Jedi Council, or I should say High Council, here at A+ Hero Report. And then yesterday I wind up dropping the Creature Commandos review for episode number 4, which I continue to really enjoy, honestly, as a series. Have you had the opportunity to check out Creature Commandos so far? Are you keeping up with it?
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping up with it, and I'm having a blast with it. I thought episode 4's tearjerker, I think would have worked a little better for me had James Gunn not basically spoiled it, and that's kind of my fault for like keeping up with all of James Gunn's videos. But because he was like saying, he was talking about how proud he was of episode 4, and because of just the way it starts with Weasel's lawyer coming in saying he was alleged of killing those kids, he didn't actually do it. I kind of knew exactly where the story was going to be going, so it was like, it was still a good episode, a great heartfelt like ending, or very very tragic ending. But at the same time, I kind of saw it coming, so I didn't get the teary reaction I think James Gunn was hoping I would, that people watching the episode would get. I still think episode 3, just because of that ending, was probably my favorite, with
Yeah,
the GI Robot. That one had me cracking up so hard, especially at the end.
Yeah, I didn't. I missed a little bit of a GI Robot in this episode, but it is fascinating. Once one character leaves, you got somebody like Frankenstein that kind of sort of takes that character's place in the sense of just filling in a character role. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
balance itself out pretty well. But yeah, both of those reviews, Skeleton Crew and Creature Commandos, are currently up on our channel right now. Look, guys, as we go through this episode, remember, at the end of the day, these are simply our A+ opinions, but we always want to go ahead and know yours. So feel free to chat with us. Feel free to discuss with us any of the topics that we go ahead and bring up, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're at. Feel free to leave comments throughout the episode as we are currently live. We'll definitely get back to you and respond to you for sure. And if you want to help us out monetarily, certainly please go ahead and do so. We got super chats open, super stickers if you want to. We don't have any sponsors, so we really do grow with the help of you guys to go ahead and add additional production value and ability to do other videos and things like that here at the channel. But if you can't help us out monetarily, that's certainly more than fine. Hit that like button. It goes a long way. Share these videos. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't certainly done so. And let people know that A+ Hero Report is currently live right now. Let's give some shout outs to people that are in our live chat. We definitely would appreciate to go ahead and highlight people that take their time out to go ahead and comment. Again, hit that like button, guys. It's absolutely free. Takes a second if you haven't done so yet. Enrique Perez, hey, Adam, I just saw the Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and it was amazing. Post-credit scene was awesome. Can't wait for more Sonic the Hedgehog in the coming years. Yeah, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about that in our honorable mention segment. In fact, I probably will just drop it right now and just keep it out of the way. But Sonic 4 is in development, Stuart.
Ooh.
Yeah, they have greenlit the idea of a Sonic 4. I guess they saw the return so far for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is doing incredibly well. Three movies in, and I'm seeing this is like the best rated one. So it's like these movies continue to get better and better, it seems like. And so Sonic 4 is on the way, guys. It is on the way. Variety reported it yesterday in an exclusive report.
Freaking incredible. You had a teaser poster that came out, when the first movie came out, and everyone hated it so much. There was a boycott ready for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the teaser trailer, which everyone hated even more, especially with, just Sonic's design. But something unexpected happened. Paramount was actually like, you know what? The fans might have a point here. And, history kind of speaks for the rest, because you get the redesign of Sonic. You get the fact that the first movie was, not amazing, but it was just a really fun, road trip kind of film. And then just the way the sequel just improved on it, and just hearing that it seems like they're continuing that momentum with the third one being even better than the second one, which is just incredible. Yeah, I'm loving this Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. My only complaint about it is that I wish this franchise started when I was like, a lot younger. And I was like, really, because man, there was a time where I was obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog as a kid. And I think that if these movies came out at that time, I would have been like the perfect target audience for them. But don't get me wrong, I'm still loving them now as an adult, and I'm definitely going to be seeing this one in theaters as soon as I get a chance. But yeah, it's incredible. Everyone expected the first movie to fail, and they're just getting stronger and stronger now. Stronger now.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable, honestly. But yeah, Variety reports that Paramount is prepping the Sonic the Hedgehog 4, with the studio anticipating a spring 2027 release date. So yeah, look forward to more entries into Sonic. And if anything, it does make me curious if they have any plans to sort of how they did the Knuckles series in between 2 and 3. I do wonder if we're going to have another sort of limited series of some sort between 3 and 4. But we'll see. We'll keep you guys posted. Also, official trailer for the upcoming Henry Danger, the movie, and the upcoming new series Thunderman's Undercover, and will air on Nickelodeon on January 17th and the 22nd.
So Thundermans, because I know that was like a show, because it had one of the power, it had a couple Power Ranger actors in it, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
really?
But is that a spin-off of Henry Danger, or are they just two unrelated superhero shows on Nickelodeon?
I don't know if Enrique, if you're still in the chat, man, let us know. I'm not sure about that question, honestly. Finally saw a Golden Globe Awards nomination with Pixar's Inside Out 2, Moana 2 are both nominated for Best Motion Picture, animated with Wild Robot in the Best Original Score and Song. Is Wild Robot not nominated for Best Picture at the Golden Globes? I heard a lot of great things about Wild Robot. I haven't seen it yet, but that'd be kind of crazy if Wild Robot's not in that nomination field for Golden Globe Awards.
I'm going to be annoyed if Moana 2 gets nominated, but not Wild Robot.
Yeah, that'd be bananas to me. I think the forefront right now is Inside Out 2 and Wild Robot. I think those are probably the two wild cards, but I gotta see it. That'd be kind of crazy if Wild Robot's not on that list.
Yeah.
Winners will be revealed on CBS channel and on Paramount Plus January. Okay. We got Blossom in the house. What's up, Blossom? Certainly good to see you in here. Ram Jam in here as well. Thank you so much for certainly coming through. I did get your live viewer question as of yesterday. I did see it, so it's working for you again. Darth Gutierrez, what's going on, man? Good to see you as always. Enrique says, I think my top 5 is Despicable Me 4. Okay. Okay.
I love that video Steve Carell posted on YouTube where it's him like discussing the Despicable Me cinematic universe, and he basically has like this whole chart out, and it basically looks like the MCU and DCU. It was a joke, obviously, but still, it was pretty funny.
That sounds pretty funny. We got Marcelino in the house. I saw that HBO Max is going to remove some of the animated shows. Yeah, one of them a Green Lantern CGI cartoon, so I haven't watched it. You have until January 1st. Oh, that's such a quick turnaround. I've never watched the CGI cartoon for Green Lantern. Maybe like the first couple episodes when it premiered, but I don't think I ever followed it. Was that on that was on Cartoon Network, wasn't it? Was that a Cartoon Network series?
Yes, I believe it was.
Okay. And Marcelino's just correct us. Thundermans isn't a spinoff of Henry Danger, but both do exist in the same universe.
Okay.
Cool.
So they're part, and if I remember correctly, Henry Danger exists in the Drake and Josh universe, so they're all part of that Nickelodeon sitcom universe. It's all connected, man.
It's all connected. Ramjan says Sonic has come a long way. Yeah, it definitely has. Frankie, what's up, Frankie? Wild Robot and Moana 2 both got nominated.
Okay.
All. Okay, good. Okay, just want to make sure Wild Robot was definitely on that list for sure. That's going to be a tight race, man. I will be interested to see who pulls out that W.
I forgot. Did Transformers 1 come out this year?
Yeah, it did come out this year.
That's
got to be on the list too, right?
But I wanted to be nominated because I actually just saw that like a few days ago, and I was kind of amazed at how good that was.
Everybody keeps saying that. I have not seen it, but everybody that has seen this movie is like, dude, this is probably like the best entry into Transformers. I'm like, I can't believe that, but I hear a lot of people talk highly about it.
You know, I got to be honest about something. So, before watching Transformers 1, I wanted to rewatch all the Transformers movies to see if they are as bad as I remember them. And, you know, for the most part, yeah, but I will also give credit where credit's due, which is that they're terrible movies, but Michael Bay is an amazing director. So I think that's why those movies piss me off so much, is because they're so well directed, and yet it's just dick and fart jokes for 2.5 hours. But then, you know, Bumblebee, you know, all right movie. But this is the part where I have to like kind of say, I feel like the first time I watched Rise of the Beast, I didn't give it a fair chance. I think I just went in ready to be like just kind of whatever mid about it. But I watched it again, you know, right before going into Transformers 1. And I gotta say, I kind of feel bad for not really acknowledging that this is the first good like actual Transformers movie, because Bumblebee was okay, but it was just Bumblebee. But Rise of the Beast is like an actual Transformers movie, and it gives you characters that actually have an arc, you know, and I actually kind of love how Optimus Prime kind of parallels Noah, and even and even Optimus Primal. Like, I actually kind of like looking back at it, and I'm like, this movie's actually really good.
Yeah, I think Rise of the Beast is certainly an underrated Transformers film. I don't know if it got what it certainly deserved. But I do remember seeing it and coming out and actually really enjoying it, thinking it was actually an improvement upon Bumblebee and moving kind of really in the right direction at times. I can't remember the review that I gave for it, but I'm pretty sure I was relatively positive about it. So yeah, I think the new Transformer stuff has actually been relatively solid, but to each their own. But I'm glad that you gave it a second chance, and we're more impressed with it the second time around.
Yeah, definitely.
Guys, let's go ahead and kick off this show, man, and get into our first segment of the day. And we're going to kick off with our honorable mentions. This is your first time watching the show. This is pretty much topics that didn't quite make the cut, but felt that you certainly still deserve to know about them. We had a lot of great topics to certainly talk about today, so this was really hard for me to kind of go through and pick out. I don't know, Stuart, if you happen to have any that maybe I didn't mention in the messages earlier today or not.
I do indeed.
What you got for us?
So we have a Chainsaw Man movie coming
Oh yeah.
in I believe next year. Which we technically already knew about, but now we have a confirmation that it will be coming to theaters next year, which is really exciting. And there's a new trailer for it that just came out, and it'll be covering the Bomber Demon arc, which I absolutely loved. In fact, I think that's actually where I left off in the manga. I don't think I read too far past that. But yeah, if you guys like Chainsaw Man, or heck, even if you don't, like, let this be your first time experiencing it. Basically, if you like, the most basic way to explain Chainsaw Man is that it's just like if Quentin Tarantino was coming up with his own Kamen Rider series. You get Chainsaw Man. So I highly recommend it to anyone who likes anime, or even if you're thinking of getting into an anime. I feel like Chainsaw Man is kind of that perfect first anime.
Nice. I did see some of the trailer. At first I thought it said Chainsaw Massacre. I was like, "Ooh, it's a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre." I was like, "Oh no, Chainsaw
That would
Man."
be an
Okay.
awesome crossover, though.
I was like,
Leatherface versus Chainsaw Man.
yeah, absolutely. But that's cool. Very, very cool honorable mention here this week, man. We also got some news for you guys. A couple months ago, we talked about a report that came out that good old Jared Leto might possibly playing Skeletor in the Masters of the Universe feature film. And Hollywood Reporter this week did in fact confirm this news. Jared Leto nabs Skeletor role in Masters of the Universe movie. I think we reported this back in like September or something of some time. I feel like it's been a minute since we talked about this, but we did state that he was in in talks for it, and they have in fact confirmed it like 4 months later or 3 months later. But it does say the list of villains cast for Amazon MGM Studios live action take on Masters of the Universe now includes Jared Leto. And I think they have a couple other people that they named. It says Leto will play Skeletor. Sam C. Wilson will fill in the role of Trapjaw. Hafter Jornson will play Goatman, and Koja Ada nabbed the role of Triclops. So they also join Allison Brie as Evil Lynn, Skeletor's second in command. So they're really getting the whole like rogues gallery together of Skeletor and his minions for Masters of the Universe. That's actually kind of exciting. Like, it does feel very much like, okay, like we're really getting into sort of like the toy elements and the fantastical elements of Masters of the Universe for this one. But yes, as plot details are still being kept under wraps, and we have Travis Knight that's set to direct the film, set to go ahead and drop June of next year, June 5th of 2026. So Jared Leto takes up the role of Skeletor. Do you feel any different about this, Stuart? I mean, I felt like we were a little bit hesitant, almost like for some reason, the most recent movies that Jared Leto's been in haven't necessarily done so well. So it's almost like I don't want to say Jared Leto's become like a black stain onto like movies that he's attached to, but I do wonder if some of the wind has been taken out of Jared Leto's sails a little bit. Like, am I tripping, or do you feel that way in regards to that?
I feel like it's not going to put butts in seats. Let me put it that way. Because whether or not it's his fault, he has been in a lot of duds recently, and the characters he's been playing, he hasn't been doing the best, in my opinion. Specifically with like Morbius. And the thing is, I always say that Jared Leto seems like an actor with a lot of potential. I just have yet to really, but then again, I haven't seen Texas, or was that movie Dallas Texas Buyers Club or something like that.
Yeah, Dallas
I
Buyers
haven't
Club.
seen that, and I
He was
hear
really
he's
good in it.
amazing in that movie.
Yeah.
But most of the movies, even ones that I like Blade Runner 2049, he's never really been the highlight of the movies that he's been in. So I don't know. I'm not excited about him being Skeletor, but it's not a deal breaker. Let me put it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like there are a million other people I would have cast as Skeletor, but him being Skeletor isn't a deal breaker. I still want to see what it's going to look like in the makeup, and whether or not they use practical or CG or a good mixture of both, and the overall kind of tone they go for him. Like, are they going to keep his really silly, hype? Kind of, yeah, curse you, hey man. Like in the animated show, or are they going to go for a whole different take that technically only an actor like Jared Leto could take? Like maybe they're like, I don't know. It's like a lot of things where since we still know so little about this movie, it's hard to judge too early.
Yeah.
I can say right now, this doesn't get me any more excited.
It's one of those things where, like, when I look back at Morbius, and even though it's a terrible movie, like, I do wonder, like, was the performance of Jared Leto as Morbius terrible, or was it like the script and what he had to work with just that terrible that we put a lot of the, I don't want to say the blame on Jared Leto, but we just look at him a little bit differently. Like, I do, like, when I think of him, like, literally when I look at this photo, I'm like, I can see it. Like, I could
Mhm.
totally see Jared Leto in this role as Skeletor. So I guess to me, it's really gonna be come down to the idea of how good is the script for him. If the script really works and if he can give a really great performance and not go into the animated, voice or anything like that, then maybe we have something here. Like, I do hope that he takes some inspiration from the classic Masters of the Universe live action Skeletor that we had, because I thought that was actually a really pretty frightening Skeletor version. So I hope that he taps into that a little bit. So I do see the potential here, and I think this comment says it perfectly from Gray Shorts. It's going to be awesomely bad or badly awesome, and so like so it could honestly be either or. But I am leaning to the point of I do think Jared Leto can do this role. It's really going to come down to what the script asks for. But yeah, I'm still hesitant. It doesn't push the needle for me. But regardless, Masters of the Universe live action, Travis Knight, I'm there. Like, I've been wanting to see this for the longest time, so I'm definitely going to be there opening night regardless.
I do love the other casting news that you mentioned. I do love that we have the Mountain playing Goat Man.
Oh, that's who. I'm terrible with actor names, so I didn't know. So the Mountain from Game of Thrones, that's him.
Yep.
Oh, that's badass. That's such a great casting choice then. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on Jared Leto as Skeletor. Also, honorable mentions. We do have ourselves a brand new Mummy movie. I feel like we have a Mummy announcement like every couple of months here, but according to the Hollywood Reporter, the Mummy is being written and directed by the Evil Dead Rise filmmaker Lee
Ooh.
Cronin. Yeah, this is an exclusive report. He's going to be working with Blumhouse to write and direct a new take on the horror trope revolving around the ancient mummified undead for New Line Cinema. The project was previously only known as a Cronin mystery movie that's been announced earlier this year and now set for an April 17th, 2026 release date. So plot details are being kept in wraps, obviously, but they're hoping that he can breathe modern life into this ageless evil, as they say. So The Mummy is being remade by the Evil Dead Rise filmmaker. I mean, look, I was a fan of Evil Dead Rise. I thought it was a really, really good movie in the sense of, really tapping into the horror elements here. So maybe getting somebody in that realm to bring the Mummy to life is a good option here.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I don't think it's possible to get any worse than the Tom Cruise Mummy movie. So I think just, audience hearing that that's not the version of the Mummy we're getting, I think they're gonna be excited for it. Also, I think you are frozen. Oh, yep, and there he goes. Looks like his device lost connection, but I assume he'll be back relatively soon. So yeah, new Mummy movie coming out, guys. How exciting. Oh, and there he is.
Yeah, we'll see. This thing happens to me all the time. I might have to go back out and then come back in though. You know what? While I'm gone, Stuart, there is one more honorable mention if you can find it up on our Facebook page. It is the just brief Clayface news, like an update to it.
See if I'm signed into Facebook.
Yeah, he gave a quick interview in regards to some of the Clayface news that came up. I'm trying to see how far down it is. It was relatively recent. Yeah, it's right after the Captain America and the Skeleton Crew one. It's from Gizmodo. James Gunn explains how Clayface movies seem to happen so fast. If you can go over that real quick while I try and get this my camera and stuff set up, I'll be right back. Yeah, it's not too far down from the top. They've got a what if poster, some Captain America pictures, a Captain America article, Skeleton Crew, and then it's a Clayface article picture from Gizmodo.
Yeah, just trying to see if I can.
You don't have to pull it up, but if you're able to read it, I've got a banner that you can use. But I'll be right back. I'm gonna try and see if I can get this camera to work again. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry everyone. I haven't logged into Facebook in super long. Like I technically only use it for Messenger, so I don't even know if I don't even know if I can get onto the Facebook page. I think I can.
Okay. I think.
Oh, sorry. I was having trouble getting onto the Facebook page because
no, it's good. I think I might have fixed it.
Okay, cool.
Let me so yeah, let's get this update. I got this now.
Okay,
bring it up just in case. If you can go to the Facebook page, you don't have to necessarily log in, but if you can go to the Facebook page and just pull it up, pull up some of the backups just in case for the stories this week.
Okay, here we go.
But Clayface is back in the news. James Gunn, since this movie came about so fast, people had the opportunity to talk to James Gunn about just the quickness of this happening. And when the Superman trailer launched this week, somebody got the opportunity to talk to him about it. It says, which is kind of how it says Gunn explained that while news of the Clayface movie was first reported last week, it had actually been in the process for some time, which is kind of how all things at DC work nowadays. He says, I didn't plan on making a Clayface movie. He says, Mike came in, he pitched this wonderful idea. I was like, damn, I can't believe you got me to want to make a Clayface movie. But he's got to write the script, and who knows how that's going to work. He goes and he writes the script. First draft is great. Second draft is even better. And then I'm like, let's do it. So we found a place for it because if there's quality stuff, we can find a way to work it in. He says we also asked if he's not all worried that a Clayface movie is now likely to open before the next Batman movie from Matt Reeves. He says, well, I mean, Clayface is in the DCU, so it doesn't really matter. He says lots of things can happen, but only a few are definitely happening. He says the process seems to be a good example of how Gunn and Safran are running DC at the moment. He says there are a lot of things that are getting reported that I haven't greenlit and I haven't said okay to. Some of those are true in terms of they're in development, and some of them are not true. And just because they're in development, that doesn't mean that I'm going to make that movie. There's a lot of things that people seem to be counting on that it may be unwise to count on. The reporter says, yikes, what could that mean? So as of right now, the confirmed big screen, like green lit projects, clearly Superman, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which actually goes into filming here in a couple of weeks. Believe it or not, Supergirl will be filming in a couple of weeks. He's got Clayface set for September 11th, 2026, and then the dynamic duo sort of like that new animation style for the Dick Grayson and Jason Todd film. That's going to be June 30th in 2028. And outside of that, television wise, it's just Green Lantern right now. But those are the confirmed greenlit things that are happening. I know we've been having news about um, Sergeant Rock. There's been a lot of news coming out about Sergeant Rock that it's got a writer that Daniel Craig may in fact be attached to it. But as of right now, that has not been officially greenlit. That's just reports that are currently going around right now. So right now, only 4 projects officially greenlit: Superman, Supergirl, Clayface, and Dynamic Duo. How do you feel about that, though, Stuart, when he says something along the lines of I found it interesting where he says, so we found a place for it, because if there's quality stuff, we can find a way to sort of work it in. So clearly James Gunn had no plans on having a Clayface movie, but was just that impressed with the script and thought it was really cool that it's like, yeah, we'll make it work. How do you feel about that?
I love it. That's you know what show came from that exact mentality?
Hmm.
The Mandalorian. Disney did not go to Jonathan Favreau and go, hey, can you write us a Star Wars show? No. He went to Disney, said, hey, I have this great idea for a Star Wars show. The timeline wise, it won't really affect the movies or anything else that you have in the work. It'll be like, in a perfect in between 7 and 6. So, it can be its own standalone series. Gave them a pitch, showed them like the concept, and they were like, okay, we like this, and it sounds exactly like that's what's going on with Clayface. A guy had a really good idea for a Clayface movie, pitched it to James Gunn. James Gunn thought, hey, this could actually work. So I like that. I think that's a great way to go about running a studio. If you see something that you didn't plan for, but looks like it can actually really help kind of strengthen the universe and also just work as a standalone story, heck yeah, greenlight that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I love his flexibility for it too. It does make me wonder. I know he has mentioned the idea of it being an interconnected universe, not so much like each movie has to come out in a particular order or fit into a timeline sort of thing. Like they're not building up to a big bad. But I gotta think that there's maybe like still, as there's always some level of studio interference, maybe some things that he's kind of keeping the ability to put in or make sure like this doesn't happen or that this does happen sort of thing in there to maneuver around things to kind of fit into the world that he's kind of built, especially if it's something that he initially didn't plan on bringing in, but maybe wants to add in order for it to kind of fit into his overall project. I think that's pretty cool, man. So I love his flexibility and really going with script first here.
I'm also kind of curious because it's clear that this came after Creature Commandos, which already has Clayface in it. So I'm curious if James Gunn had to like make sure that it like aligned properly, or if there's going to be a little bit of kind of a squint in order for it to make sense in terms of his character arc. So I'm curious how that'll like tie in together.
Yeah, I am curious too. Blossom says, mummies, holy macaroni. Haven't seen any mummies in fiction since Mummies Alive. I'm trying to think the last mummy movie I saw was probably the maybe the classic Mummy with what's his name?
Oh, Brandon Fraser.
Brandon
I
Fraser.
love those two. Well, I guess there's 3, but I still haven't seen the 3rd Mummy movie. But I love those movies.
It is the Mummy Revive film. Is it from Universal Pictures or New Line? It's from New Line Cinema. I don't think this is connected to what Universal has in their sort of mummy, their monster franchise. Marcelino says, I wish Clayface movie was just another in disguise, like a Nightwing movie, like how the Trench movie was secretly a Black Manta movie in disguise. I get you. Darth Gutierrez says, I really hope that they change the title of the name for Nightwing and Red Hood film. You don't like the dynamic duo title? I kind of think that's cool, but I guess that's more of a Robin and Batman and Robin sort of title in regards to the dynamic duo. But yeah. Logan, what's up, Logan? Appreciate you coming through, man, with your comment. What version of Superman do you think James Gunn will give us in the story? I do believe it's heavily influenced from the All-Star Superman, if I'm not mistaken. The All-Star Superman series. I can't remember who wrote that one though. Wasn't a Tom King? Was that a Grant Morrison? I feel like that's a Grant Morrison one.
Sorry, I thought I had it like conveniently on the side here.
Oh, okay.
I forgot who
Yeah,
wrote
I'm
it.
not sure. I think it's probably gonna be a mixture. Maybe some All-Star Superman, maybe a little bit of New 52 Superman, just because of the costume design in general. But I know he does his research too, man. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like some elements of a classic, 1930s, 1940s Superman in there somewhere. Also, some elements. So I think the biggest influence is All Star Superman, and then he'll probably sprinkle in some other things, some other elements from throughout the years.
Thank you, Marcelino.
Yeah,
It
Morrison.
was Grant Morrison. And yeah, I would also expect just, a little bit of Christopher Reeves influence as well, because James Gunn did say that like the original Superman movie is one of his favorite comic book films.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. So I'm sure a little bit of everything. Darth, he says Clayface. That's interesting in live action. We've never had a live action Clayface. No, but I think a lot of people have been asking for quite some time.
Mhm.
Oh, he did say. Marcelino says we have one in Gotham TV show. I'm trying to remember
Oh,
how that came across. Like it's been a while since I've seen the series.
I actually didn't know that. I am
Um,
curious if they'll get Alan Tudyk to play Clayface in live
in
action
live
because he
action,
voices him in Creature Commandos.
that'll be a fascinating one, man. That'll be a fascinating one if they go with that route. I do like Alan Tudyk for sure. Um, all right, guys. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our main topics for the day. We'll see how long this episode of Hero Report goes for today. I have a feeling we have a lot to say when it comes to our main topic here, and that is going to be, in fact, Superman, baby. As you wind up seeing at the very top here, teaser trailer wind up dropping. The press got the opportunity to see it on Monday. They got the opportunity to, I think, maybe visit some of the set pieces, also have some great interviews with some of the cast members in regards to Superman as well. So a lot of details are certainly coming out. And James Gunn had a great interview, I thought, with Collider.com that we'll get into here in just a little bit to really give us further insight in regards to the movie itself. So, but yeah, we did get ourselves not only a teaser poster, we got a motion poster. We got hints at some of the soundtrack as well from John Murphy with hints of John Williams' score in there. And then, of course, the teaser trailer that wind up dropping for us earlier on, I believe it was Thursday when it wind up dropping. I don't think we've done a review for this yet, Stuart. I don't think we put a review out on our channel, but I know we both want to go ahead and certainly talk about it. I will give you the floor first in regards to this Superman trailer. What did you think about it so far?
Oh my gosh, I absolutely loved it. It was everything I wanted to see in a Superman teaser trailer, giving me just enough to know what kind of atmosphere this movie is going to have. I got to see how the costume looks in the exact way that the director wants us to see it, not those set photos. And I was surprised to see that not only does his costume look a lot better, like with the cinematic camera, but so does Green Lantern and Hawkgirl for the brief shots that we get of the two of them. Definitely look a lot better than what we saw originally when it was like kind of those set photos of them. But yeah, I think like aesthetically, this movie looks awesome. I think it was like so bold of James Gunn to like have his first shot be Superman literally crashing and then like bleeding, and I think
Yeah,
that was both bold, but also like really cool because it shows because everyone knows one thing about Superman, and that is that Superman is supposed to be nearly indestructible. And so when you start off your movie like that, you're showing the audience that whatever threat Superman is facing right now, it's one that is, clearly stronger than him. But also, I love how it shows that just because he's facing like a huge threat, it doesn't mean it's all grim, because look who we get coming to save the day. It's Crypto, the super dog. And I'm just amazed that this teaser was able to fit in so much. It fit in Crypto to Superdog. It fit in Lex Luthor. It fit in a kaiju, which I didn't even know was going to be in the movie. We
yeah.
got to see Mr. Terrific, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Metamorpho, for brief moments. And yet, somehow, this trailer showed us all of that, and yet it did not feel like this trailer gave away too much at all. Like, I still have no idea what the plot of this movie is going to be, despite everything that this trailer showed us. I also I was watching a couple videos talking about this because I knew something was weird looking with some of the camera angles they did, but I wasn't sure what. And so I watched, and I guess there's a specific new lens that he was using for this movie.
Oh,
And I guess it's a lens that lets him like kind of go from like different focal lengths like instantly. And that's what gives it like kind of a weird fisheye effect. I'm probably butchering the exact explanation of how it works. So anyone who's like a lens expert can definitely feel free to correct me in the comments below. The only thing I know for sure is that it led to some really cool shots. Like my favorite is when you see him like kind of breaking the
the
glass.
glass, yeah.
That something about that. Like I always love it when like you have a live action shot, but a shot in a way that makes a character look CG. And that's what that was. Like that was not a CG shot, but the way it was filmed, it looked so fantastical is the best way to describe it.
It gave it also like a sci-fi feel for some reason. I don't know why. Like it felt like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. I think it was just because, yeah, not only the angle, but also kind of like where the area that he was like in, because it looked
Yeah.
kind of very much like a sci-fi kind of metahuman jail. But yeah, like I can't think of anything I didn't like in this trailer. I still have that same concern from like, when this movie was first announced. Even though James Gunn constantly reassures us in every single interview that this is a Superman movie. There's still in the back of my head, I've seen so many cinematic universe trying to start out their universe by like setting up all these different pieces that are going to play out in later films. And then, of course, they never get to them because that first movie ends up being a dud. We saw it happen with Bloodshot. We saw it happen with the Sony cinematic universe twice with, Amazing Spider-Man and with Morbius. So it's one of those things where I thought they were going to, or it's one of those things where in the back of my head, I'm still kind of worried that could be a problem for Superman. But the only thing making me not worried about that is the fact that, again, James Gunn keeps saying over and over that that's not the case. But yeah, well shot, love the colors, and I'm intrigued, man. I love that this trailer didn't give too much away, but it still showed us like a lot.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Somebody in the chat winds up saying was crypto a real dog or a CGI dog? I believe that's a CGI dog. I don't know if they're gonna have elements of some of the movie where it's actually a real dog. I'm not sure how they have a blend in it, but it is inspired based off of James Gunn's real life dog, if I'm not mistaken. But also, I think we kind of saw a CGI dog in Guardians of the Galaxy with the astronaut dog. Was it Cosmo? So he definitely has had like, I don't want to say training, but he's definitely has had experience in working with like CGI dogs in the past too. So, but I do believe the shots, at least that we see, or some of the shots that we see, are a CGI dog. The part where he's pulling Superman, I do wonder if that's a real dog, though. I'm kind of curious as to what the balance is, or if it's all CGI.
I would assume for some of the close-up shots that they're probably going to use a real dog, but that CG looked amazing. So if that
Yeah, I
if
thought,
that
yeah,
that scene where the dog bit the cape, if that wasn't a real dog, well, it had me fooled.
yeah. Frankie says, love the trailer. Um, Gray Short says, I really like the Superman trailer. I would agree with you guys. I really enjoyed the Superman trailer too. First time that I watched it, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit underwhelmed when I watched it at first, simply because I was like I was at my workstation. I'm not even supposed to be on my phone, so I'm trying to like watch this movie and watch this trailer in secret all at the same time. So I wasn't necessarily paying attention. But honestly, as I watched the trailer over and over and over again, I mean, I would agree with you. And I even said this in one of my shorts that I posted. Do you know the amount of balls it had to take for James Gunn to start off this trailer with Superman's getting his ass kicked and like just laying there bloodied and beaten? And literally, I love how it's just completely silent with the exception of his breathing sort of thing. When I posted this on one of my other posts, Superman is very much sort of like a symbol of hope when we look at him. And so to kind of see that level of hope, if you will, especially in the time period where being hopeful and kind is really hard to be. It's not easy these days. Like, I just think it's a really great sort of metaphor of seeing our hero in the position that he's in. But by the end of this trailer, the man is literally soaring through the sky, right? So, like, I absolutely love the contrast that we wind up getting in there. And then also the musical score, the electric guitar riff, like, oh my, it was nasty all the way through. Like, it literally gave me chills and goosebumps while watching it, to the huge crescendo at the end. one of the things that I also really start getting more and more appreciation about is Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane in this trailer. She looks like she's the part. Their passion for each other in this trailer, where they're hugging and kissing each other. I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is going to be a really great relationship on screen, I think, and one that continues to make me more and more fascinated with what we're going to be getting between the dynamic between them. But yeah, the color scheme really worked for me. A little muted at times, but I do think that there's other times in here where it really does kind of pop. I love the slow motion sort of saving of the kid. I thought that was visually just a really stunning shot, and it makes me curious what some of the other action pieces are certainly going to look like, if that's like just one of them in slow motion, if you will. I know Zack Snyder loves his slow motion shot, but this is one that really works well for me, for James Gunn kind of pulling it off. There are elements when I watch this trailer too where I wonder if this big kaiju action sequence is like the beginning of the movie. I have heard him mention the idea that we are going to be thrusted into the action in this film, and so I do wonder if this is part of just the jumping off point, if this is part of the middle act. I really have no idea, but it was really cool to kind of see all the other characters in here. And I do know that people are concerned and worried about maybe there's too many characters. But one of the things that I try to emphasize when I did some of my shorts was I do think that I just look at them as supporting characters. Like every movie that we watch has supporting characters, characters that you bounce, the idea of moving the story along or achieving a particular goal, if you will. I just think it's a bolder decision that they're superheroes. And so it probably feels like, oh, they may certainly take away from this story. But if they're treated like any other supporting character that we see in the movie, I can still see why the focus might be on Clark, Lois, and Lex at the end of the day. But look, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this trailer. There's a great shot between him and his father. I'm a sucker for male relationships, just because I feel like, and I say this all the time, like I feel like we don't get enough of them in stories, whether that be brother and brother stuff, father and son stuff. Like I do think as a man, all of that stuff is really important for us to visually be able to see. And so I just saw a really heartfelt moment between him and his father, Jonathan Kent. And then yeah, man, the action looks like it's going to be pretty intense. Superman feels like the hopeful person that we really hope that he winds up being, and really bringing through that kindness. And so while I do think I have seen a lot of people be very negative on my comments, or in regards to my Superman posts, in regards to they're showcasing him as weak sort of thing, and I don't really don't view it that way whatsoever. I mean, one, it's a teaser trailer. There's a lot more to the movie that you guys certainly have seen, but maybe first impressions for them maybe feel like he came across kind of weak. But I don't believe that at all. I think there's some metaphors and some symbolism in here that I think people are certainly missing at the end of the day. But when you see him saving people, when you see him clearly pushing back on a kaiju, when you see him like fighting somebody inside of a baseball stadium in here, I think there's plenty of strength to certainly go around for Superman. But I like the idea of seeing him beaten, battered, bruised, but by the end of this trailer, we see him soaring into the sky once again. There's something really cool about it, I thought.
Definitely. Want to piggyback on what you said with the Clark Kent, Jonathan Kent scene, because yeah, I thought we get a brief moment of the two of them, and it looks so beautifully shot.
Yeah.
I love that this farm is really scaled down to like previous iterations of the Kent farm that we've seen in the past. But something I really love too is the vibe I get from it. If they go in the direction I think they're going, it could actually be pretty dark, which is, we always have the Jonathan Kent death, which is usually represented through a heart attack or just something that Superman cannot possibly prevent. Despite having all the power in the world, he couldn't save his dad. Basically, that's the story they always go with. So I'm wondering for this one, instead of it being a heart attack that just comes out of nowhere, is this like, just based on the way that the two of them are talking with each other? Is
Hmm.
this like a heart disease, something that they know is going to happen at some point, but they don't
Oh
know
yeah.
when? So it's like something where it's like, not only does Superman feel powerless to stop him, like after he's dead, he has this whole moment of having to feel powerless, like this whole thing of knowing that his dad is going to leave him at any point and there's nothing he can do about it. Because if so, that is a really good way to tell it, like a really dramatic story, like a really good dramatic new take on that story that we've kind of seen done many times.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. The truth, give us some shout out for giving us your thoughts. The Superman trailer just gave a brand new life to this IP. It felt fresh and exciting again, and I totally will agree with you. And I say that because we're so used to Superman movies being solo films. We're so used to them being origin stories or Superman being like the beginning of the world of superheroes and whatever universe that he's kind of in. It did feel fresh to me in the sense that we are coming into a world that is populated with all these characters, that they have relationships with each other, right? They may not all necessarily kind of get along. They may have like inner jokes that we don't really get, right? Like there's just all these relationships that are kind of already established. And so I think for me, that already makes this Superman world that we're jumping into and movie just feel fresh and unique in its own right.
Mhm. Also, I
Um,
do want to. Oh yeah, this is the one.
March 6th. Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry. Just in terms of this comment, like I really wish they didn't have Lex Luthor. He's been used too much. Other villains like Parasite, Livewire, Silver Banshee, Mongol Toyman, Brainiac, Metallo, Bizarro, and Atomic Skull. Which I do agree with. Like it would be cool to see more of those other Superman villains that we have that we haven't really gotten to see on the big screen. But I will also say that I do see why we needed Lex Luthor in this first movie. I mean, to be fair, even though we get him a lot in live action on the TV show, we haven't really gotten a live action Luthor since 2006. So I'm kind of excited to finally get like another live action Lex Luthor on the big screen because we definitely did not have any Lex Luthors after 2006 before now. I'm just,
Yeah, I
you
was
know, we did not have a live action Lex Luthor after Kevin Spacey.
poor Jesse. Poor Jesse.
uh,
Blossom says the trailer rocked. The start of the trailer is what intrigued me. Yeah, it intrigued me too, Frankie. Like I said, I think it was a really bold move and decision on James Gunn part to pull the trigger on that, honestly. But yeah, man, look, we also got some great details from James Gunn here this week that talks a little bit about the upcoming film itself. Let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of what James Gunn is saying. It says, Superman throws you right into the action, plus 9 other facts we learned from James Gunn on set of the first DCU movie. So let's just jump right into it. Superman puts audiences in action right from the beginning. Let's see here. It says Superman films have been packed with origin stories since the inception. Oh my God, is this going to do this again to me every week, Stuart? Every week, bro. Let's see if we can. I don't know why it does that to me. It says we just start in the middle of the action. Superman's already existing. Lois and Clark. Oh, come on, man. Why does this do this to me, Stuart? Every week, bro. I wonder if there's a way to. Okay, so he says Lois and Clark already know each other. Lex hates Superman's guts from the beginning, although they don't know each other personally. So we start right in the middle of the action. It takes place over it takes place over a short amount of time. It says, while this is a bit odd for superhero movies in general, it sounds like this is just one of the many shifts from what we've come to expect from the genre. Gunn mentioned it was about really putting us in the middle of the action from the beginning. And there are a lot of things in this movie now that I've been making it over a year that I think of as normal. But now when you bring it up, I go, oh yeah, that's pretty unusual. I am curious about his take on the idea of this movie takes place over a short amount of time. I wonder what that means in regards to it. Like it does make me curious about what the pacing of this movie is not only going to be. But is this like all this stuff sort of happen in a day? Because when I watch something like Man of Steel, I feel like Man of Steel is over a short amount of time also. Like the guy literally just gets his powers for the first time, kind of learns how to fly, and it's all of a sudden like this threat kind of comes out of nowhere sort of thing. So I do wonder like how the idea of a short amount of time, certainly what he means to him.
I hope though, if it's like over the course of a couple days, it's like we get a Clark and Lois that know each other pretty well if they're going to end up together by the end of it. Because the only thing I wouldn't want is like a movie that takes place over the course of the day and you have two characters that barely know each other, and then by the end they're together, and it's like in that particular case I'd be kind of disappointed. So um yeah, I hope that if they go that route, that Clark and Lois have at least somewhat of a good relationship going then at the beginning.
Superman's action was partially inspired by Top Gun Maverick. Says another struggle that Superman films have had is how to make action exciting when the Man of Steel is extremely powerful and nearly unstoppable. Yet Gunn has planned meticulously for the action while also allowing himself room to experiment. I wrote up this big document on action and what our philosophy is of the action, and how we shot it and what it is, and keeping it alive in the air as well as on the ground. For now, when the action is in the sky, Gunn has also been influenced by one of the biggest action films from the 2010s. He says, and being able to shoot stuff in the sky like that is really hard. So we took a lot from films like Top Gun Maverick. We shot a lot of our action with actual drones flying in and around Superman and the people that he's flying with, engineer, whoever else that he's up fighting in the air. And we did that on sound stages. We got these really small, crazy drones now. We've got some of the best flyers in the world here who are working with it. And so we use those guys a lot, and everything's planned out with me, as it always is. I think that sounds super exciting, honestly. I've seen some really great drone work of, like, have you ever seen like the drone work of when people like go inside buildings and they like maneuver into each room, or like into stadiums or arenas and then all the way back out sort of thing? Like the drone work that they're able to do these days is incredible. And so even if you got somebody like David Cornsweet on like some sort of gimbal where he's flying or however they're doing the work, to have these like multiple views and drones kind of flying all around him with green screen in the back sort of thing, I really do think this is going to be some of the most dynamic sort of uh, Superman flying that we've seen in the film. And I love the Man of Steel stuff, but this feels like it's really taking a unique take on things.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that. I may give Man of Steel a lot of crap, but I will say that they definitely got some really good flying scenes in there with Superman. So I'm looking forward to seeing like what they do with this one, and now hearing like that they're trying new things with drones, and also the fact that there was some inspiration from Top Gun Maverick. You know, one of the really like coolest looking flights that you'll ever see in like any movie. That gets me excited to see what this is going to look like. And hearing that they use both drones indoors and outdoors, I feel like it's going to give them a lot of flexibility in how creative they can be with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. He also says tonally, Superman is different from anything James Gunn has done before. He says, but inherently, Superman seems like a strange hero film to be directed by Gunn, which I think a lot of us certainly felt at first, like, wow, like James Gunn is going to tackle this. This feels odd. Whose sense of humor and occasionally cynicism, as well as his deconstruction of the genre, seems almost antithetical to the optimistic, positive viewpoint of Superman. Gunn is well aware that this is a shift for him, yet he knows the tone the story needs to set. He says, so for me, this is about coming at something from the inside. So how can Nicholas Holt tell you what Lex is? It's like he's coming from an interior place. It's so different with the tone of this film. I know what it feels like to me. I know the texture. I know that it's something different that I've ever done before, but how can I then translate that to you guys on the outside? Because I start with a place that's very hopeful, fun, but incredibly serious all at the same time. He says, even though Superman is serious, that doesn't mean it's complete tonal shift for Gunn, as his vision for Superman still has plenty of humor. He says it's humorous, but it's certainly not as comic or as much of a comedy as either Suicide Squad or Guardians. There's plenty of humor in it. People like Rachel Brosnahan are so funny, and David Cornsweet is very funny as well. So there's humor in it, but it's trying to create something that is grounded, but also it's an incredibly fanciful world. It's fantasy. It's taken from other things like Game of Thrones, where it's this universe where superheroes actually exist. What are they like? There's a magic there that's undeniable.
That's really cool.
Also, don't expect Superman's soundtrack to resemble other James Gunn films. He says there's nods to Williams, and then there's also John Murphy's. John Murphy's created this incredibly beautiful score, but the one thing is, hold on, but the one thing is, it is a score. It's not a soundtrack, so it's not about songs. There's a few songs in it, and of course I chose those songs beforehand, but it isn't like any of my previous movies really in terms of the score is what drives it. It's as much more of a score film. That gives me some comfort, honestly. And I say that because I just watched one of the latest episodes of Creature Commandos, and at the very end, I did not like the musical choice piece for the very end sequence after Weasel, after we see Weasel's tragic story, and they go back on the plane, and as the plane's getting ready to kind of finish off the episode, it then goes into like some sort of different type of music that for me really kind of pulled me out of the Weasel moment a little bit. And for me, it was kind of an example of how using music can kind of go wrong at times. And so to hear that this movie is more score driven than it is song driven, especially for a Superman film, that does give me comfort in the sense of he's at least taking understanding what type of movie Superman should be, and he's not infusing more of himself into the film, and he's really allowing this to be a proper Superman film when he says things like this.
Yeah, I love the fact that he's not relying on his previous tropes that work really good with the the movies that he's made in the past. He's stepping outside his comfort zone in order to give us a movie that really he seems to really be putting a lot of passion into.
Yeah, I agree. All previous DC material influenced James Gunn's take on the DC universe.
I
Yeah,
hope
somebody
that
was.
includes Superman and Lois.
He says, in talking about the influences on his new DC universe and specifically his Superman. Or somebody in the comments did ask this question. Gunn mentioned that he's been inspired by a ton of different sources. He says, I think that all previous DC media influenced me. I think that's obviously the original Donner film influenced me. But Gunn goes on to say that he's not just making a Donner film and that it's very different from that. Let me see where I can where'd it go? Oh, very different. Okay. It says Gunn also name dropped the Superman director that came before him, as well as his biggest influence overall. He says Zack Snyder did some excellent stuff. So there's a lot of ways that influenced me. There's a lot of ways in which the DC animated universe influenced me. And there's a lot of stuff from comic books above and beyond everything else. All-Star Superman that influenced me more than anything. So it seems like that's his heavy influence. Gunn admitted that All-Star Superman also influenced a more sci-fi approach to the world. He says to take that sort of Silver Age feel, that sort of science fiction approach to it with gadgets. Lex Luthor is really sort of a sorcerer in a way. He's a scientist, but he's so good at science, and I think of him as like a sorcerer. So everything influenced me, and then it's just something that's completely us. So yeah, that's some of his influence. That's an interesting take on Lex Luthor. But if he is going the Silver Age route, it does feel like when they were very high in regards to sort of the sort of sci-fi aspect of things, maybe even some mythological concepts also.
It almost feels like they're definitely going the route of like the John Cryer Lex Luthor from Supergirl. Maybe not as like over the top with like the comedy aspect of it, but
Right.
it definitely seems like in terms of like going for a Silver Age kind of inspiration for Lex Luthor, that's kind of what they're going for.
Yeah, somebody that's clearly a scientist, but like also is a believer in I want to say magic, but like using outside influences to really kind of get the advantage, if you will. So I think I know what you mean there.
Mhm.
He says Clark and Lois' relationship is unlike anything that we've seen in any superhero movie. He says the relationship between David and Rachel on screen is something I don't think we've seen. I hate to say stuff like this, but I don't think it's something we've ever seen in any superhero movie ever. Dive in a little bit deeper. He says it's a complicated relationship, and we really get into, and there's long senses that are about their relation, or there are long scenes that are about the relationship and the way that they relate, and what it would be like for a person who's this incredibly intelligent, strong-headed, stubborn, skeptical journalist to have a relationship with someone who can lift a skyscraper. Gunn continued that Lois also knows who Superman is. In addition to throwing us right into the action and with these characters established in the world, it's also exciting that Gunn seems to be moving past the dynamic of whether Lois will find out Superman's true identity or not, and focusing more on the deeper relationship details of Lois and Clark. You know,
Okay, so that does answer my question.
what was your question?
Well, the question I brought up earlier, like what's the relationship like in this movie?
Oh, yeah. You know, I did read an article or see an interview too where he says when casting the two of them, not only did they have scenes together, but he said he was trying to what did he says I was trying to cast he referred to it as Clois as Clark and Lois together, and just like how their relationship looks kind of on screen and how they mesh together. So their relationship is clearly important in this movie for sure. Superman isn't trying to set up any future DC projects, he says. Um, he says it's really about this. Now, are seeds being planted? Yes, there's seeds being planted, but that is never going to be the predominant thing in any scene for me. It's always about getting to the next scene. What's in the moment? How are we making this movie the best we can? And it's going to stay like that as much as I can possibly make it like that. When asked how much of the film is spent setting up other stuff, he says zero. Zero. I mean, maybe two little things, two moments, but basically, if something's there just to set up something else, fuck it. He says, I even said that. And he says, for all I know, those things can be cut by the time we get to the editing room because something has to exist for this movie. And if this movie works, and if that works in tandem with setting up the characters that exist in other media, then that's great. If this sets up stuff in Peacemaker, which it does, then that's great. But that is never, ever, ever with me going to be something that I'm going to sacrifice even a moment or a beat in a story, especially for a movie. With TV, you've got a little bit more leniency to be able to do that, but a movie, every beat has to be in there for the movie itself. So I think that's pretty refreshing also in its own right.
Yeah,
Um,
that's definitely a good point too. Yeah, with the big difference between movies and TV shows is that yeah, with TV shows you do have that leniency of you can have scenes that kind of just pad out an episode and are maybe there to, set something up going forward. But in the movie, it kills the pacing if you do it that way. So it is cool that he acknowledges that. And the fact that he says that if there is something there just to set something up and it doesn't work with the movie, we'll cut it.
He says everything needs to stand by itself. I don't want somebody to have to go see this movie and be relying on anything else. Now, listen, once we get down the line, that may change a little bit. In Guardians, what did you have to see in Guardians 3 to really understand it? You'd be better off seeing the first two Guardians, but even Infinity War. I explained it in an elevator, the whole plot. It's like trying to keep things as simple as possible so you don't have to have any homework, especially TV shows that people aren't into. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. I feel like that's one of the things that really hindered um the MCU in a sense is that they really did make some of the television series homework, and even if people weren't into it, it's like, oh, well, you kind of have to have watched it in order to know what's kind of going on in the movie. So I appreciate that not being his perspective. Okay.
Like for example, like with the Marvels, how it was a movie where it was you kind of had to watch two other TV shows and another movie to really understand who those characters were.
Yeah, absolutely. And even I mean, you can even go back to like WandaVision. Like if you go into Doctor Strange 2, you're like, how the hell did
Mhm.
Wanda become villain? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't even explain any of that in the movie. So yeah. David Cornwell had to audition as both Clark and Superman. He says, in picking the right Superman for this essential story, Gunn mentioned that Corn and Sweat auditioned for both Clark and for Superman, proving how integral both parts of his character are going to be in James Gunn's Superman. He says, it's not just Clark, it's not just Superman, it's Clark slash Superman. And the only people that know Clark slash Superman are his mom and his dad, and a few others who know who he is. Those are very different things. People said all sorts of different things. They said Clark's the real one. They said Superman's the real one, and Clark's the secret identity. But I don't. And it says in my script on the second page, I don't believe either of those things. I don't think anybody knows Superman unless you know both of them. And when they know both of him, they know the real guy. And that means not too many people.
I always say that the real guy is Kal-El. You know,
Mm,
while Clark Kent is definitely someone that's, you know, he puts a lot of himself into, you know, it's again kind of like a disguise in a way because he definitely over exaggerates a lot of his like bumbliness, for example, like, you know, that kind of stuff. But, you know, with Superman, it's like he has to be an example. He can't afford to look weak or, you know, make mistakes as Superman because he's got to earn that trust. So even to an extent, you know, Superman is also kind of a mask. So the only time you really see him as himself is, of course, you know, around his parents and around Lois Lane when it's just them. And then, of course, I'm sure that'll change as the movies go on, assuming that he becomes more familiar with other Justice League members to the point where they share each other's IDs or sorry, identities.
identities, yeah.
Um, but for the time being, yeah, it makes total sense that like you don't like I can honestly see it to an extent like leading to an existential crisis for someone like Clark of him being like, I don't know who I am at this point. But
Mm.
yeah, to me, I see Kal-El as the real one that and it's a side of him that very few people get to see. So I fully agree with James Gunn on that.
He says he once again went back to his previous experience with big budget superhero projects. He says, the truth is, I think I took cues from their casting process when I cast Chris Pratt in the Star Lord role. He says, so I've been taking tips from those casting processes all along. I've always believed that the casting is the most important thing. And that as long as the actor is the best possible actor for that role, that's more important than it is for a name. He says he went on to further into the casting process and said Corn and Sweat's name was in consideration early on, thanks to Ty West's Pearl, which, yeah, I actually liked them in Pearl.
That's funny. Okay, so I wonder if it was like kind of the country boy accent that he had in that movie that like won him over as like that could be a Clark, or if it was just his overall height because the dude is built.
Yeah, he is Bill. He's like 6'4", I think. He matches the height of Christopher Reeves. Scarif says, "Where's Martha?" in the trailer. Yeah, maybe.
I wouldn't be too surprised if she was like already dead by the time this movie starts. So instead of
Oh, you think?
Jonathan
Well,
Kent being, huh?
I think she has been cast for it. I think both Kent has been cast for, but you're right. It could be maybe she's in a flashback sequence or something like that. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I'm not sure. Yeah, we didn't see her.
He says a lot of people audition, and the weird thing is, I was so crazily nervous about getting Superman ready. On the very first day the tapes come in, I had seen David Cornsweat in Pearl, so I said, "Get him on, get him on." I said, "Get him on the tape." And when the very first day came in, David's tape and Rachel's tape, and I saw both of those, and I went, "Oh my God, we're gonna be okay," because both of these people are amazing. Were other really good actors for both of those roles, but at the end of the day, it was both them as individuals.
So
Um,
what's funny is that I remember in a James Gunn interview, someone asked, because I know that Nicholas Hoult originally auditioned for both Clark Kent and Lex Luthor. So someone just asked
oh yeah,
James Gunn, "Did you know from the beginning that he was going to be a better Lex Luthor than Clark Kent?" And James Gunn was like, "Yeah." And so I think that's why. I think it was because he already knew who we wanted as Superman. So it's like,
Superman.
I'll let you audition for Clark Kent, but I'm pretty sure I already want you as Lex Luthor.
He says, talking about the dynamic of Clark and Lois, he wanted to make sure that his two leads work together, creating a unique scenario to gauge their chemistry. He says, then we did something that I didn't do with Guardians, which is I cast the two leads together, and they came in, and we had this 15-minute long scene that they had to act together and talk and discuss and just communicate. And I mixed and matched all different couples, and it was simple magic when the two of them sort of came up. I got to say, it's one of my greatest moments in filmmaking. And then I think this is the last one when he talks about why he decided to go with the trunks. Gunn says, I was on the no trunks team for a long time. For a long time. And Zack Snyder said that when he was doing it, he tried a billion different trunk versions as we did. And I kept going back to no trunks, no trunks. And I'm like, well, let's just grind it out. Let's just keep trying trunks and see what happens. But it was David Cornsweet who ultimately made the difference in the trunks decision. So this is what he says. He says, David Cornsweet said something to me that really affected me. We were trying all these different versions and we screen tested with trunks and no trunks. And one of the things David said is that Superman wants kids to not be afraid of him. He's an alien. He's got these incredible powers. He shoots beams out of his eyes and can blow the truck over. He's this incredibly powerful, could be considered scary individual, and he wants people to like him. He wants to be a symbol of hope and positivity. So he dresses like a professional wrestler. He dresses in a way that makes people unafraid of him. That shows that. And I was like, that really clicked in for me. And I think trying to pretend that Superman's costume doesn't have some frivolity to it at its base, trying to make it look serious is silly because he is a superhero. He's the first one brightly colored, and that's who he is. And so that's where we landed eventually. We all came to a place where almost all of us agreed on the trunks. So yeah, that's his heavy influence there as to how the trunks made it in. What do you think? Good call, Stuart, or what?
That yeah, I that if that's what kind of made him go with that decision, that's awesome. I'm actually surprised. I actually would have thought someone like James Gunn would have had Trunks in mind from the beginning, but like hearing that
Uh-huh.
it was kind of like David that encouraged him to go through it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome too. I mean, I get the pushback that some people have in regards to the no trunks sort of thing, but you know, it is a fantastical element of Superman. You know, I mean, it's as fantastical as a dog wearing a cape. You know what I'm saying when it comes to
Hmm.
crypto, and so the trunks are inherently Superman. So I get it, and I liked David Cornsweet's approach to it. And he says supporting characters consist of James Gunn picking who he wanted. Um, he says, I think it was just who I wanted, really. Honestly, I love Mr. Terrific. These characters all get their moment in the sun. They all have their moments. They're not just cameos, these are characters. They're supporting characters. But Mr. Terrific is the main character of those characters. He actually has a big part of the plot. And so that was fun. And of course, getting to work with Nathan is always something and putting him in a stupid look. And then Isabel Mercade is great. I've been a big fan of hers for a long time. But it was about balance. He says Gunn knows this character and world extensively, and his inspirations and influences look directly at the Superman stories that came before him. That might be the final quote that we have here. So he does emphasize the idea that, look, they are supporting characters. Everybody gets their time in the sun. And if there is any supporting character that probably has the most influence on this movie and part of the plot, it looks like it's going to be Mr. Terrific in that sense. So we'll see how it plays out in regards to the balance of things. You know, I will say one thing that in an article that I read a while back, and somebody interviewing James Gunn. And one of the things that James Gunn said in regards to preparing for this movie, and I really love the way that he approaches his filmmaking, especially when he understands, you know, the pressure and the amount that is really riding on something like Superman. He said in an interview, and you could probably look this up, that before they even started filming, He said he got everybody in a room together as they went through the script, and he says, I want us all to think in our minds, what if this movie effing sucks? He's like, if when this movie releases and people say that this is a effing terrible movie, and we look back on things that we could have done differently, he says, this is the moment of honesty. This is where I want everybody in this room to be completely honest. When you read this script, when you see what we're putting together, what are the moments that you think will completely derail this movie? And he said, and people were honest. Things, the Superman Legacy title thing sort of came up, which is why he changed the name of the title to just simply Superman, because somebody said, I don't feel like this title certainly works, and he listened to them. And so I just think it's a I think that's just a really humbling approach to how you make movies, because I don't know any director or writer that's going to be in a movie and say, guys, if this movie sucks, where did we go wrong? Be honest with me. What can we improve, or what needs to be taken out of this film? And I think that speaks volumes in regards to how James Gunn is when it comes to putting this movie together. Because I think that's important to have that hindsight,
Yeah, it's funny because he mentioned something similar a while ago, how he does not hire yes people. He wants people that will challenge kind of like some of his decisions, and hence why it kind of leads to him not having to do reshoots later on. So that's pretty cool to hear that the legacy title came because he decided to listen to other people.
Yeah, I
Or sorry,
feel
the legacy
that.
title went away because he decided to listen to other people.
Let's see here. I'm gonna go into some Marshall says, hey, take it easy on Jesse Eisenberg, man. He just came out and said that Lex Luthor role damaged his career. Yeah, I can believe it. I did read that article somewhere. Frank says, maybe there is some Lex Luthor fatigue for me. I really am looking there is some Lex Luthor fatigue, but for me, I really am looking to see how Nicholas Hoult interprets Lex Luthor. Yeah, I'm fascinated by him being a choice of a Lex Luthor, so I do want to see how his role works out. The truth, do you think Superman and Supergirl already have an established relationship, or will they be meeting for the first time in a post-credit scene? There's a part of me that thinks that they have an established relationship already. I don't know. I've been hearing rumors that Millie Alcock is in this film. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. I haven't really seen any set photos of her on there. Again, Supergirl does go into filming here in just a couple of weeks, according to James Gunn. So I don't know. Do you think that they already know each other, or do you think she maybe pops up towards the end in a post-credit scene, like, "Hey, cuz"?
I honestly don't know. If I'm a betting man, I'm gonna go with post-credit scene. Only because I feel like if she was gonna have like a relationship with Superman, they probably would have at least,
Included her like a
yeah,
super.
including her in some way, shape, or form in the trailer. Uh but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised one way or another. But for now, my prediction is where they don't know each other yet, but we'll see her in a post-credit scene.
Yeah, because I heard he mentioned in an article once that Supergirl was never meant to be the second movie out of the gate, but he said the script that he got from Anna Noguera was just absolutely incredible. He says it's one of the best scripts that he's seen so far out of all the scripts that he's gotten. That just really made them decide, yeah, we got to go with this movie next. So I do find it interesting. So it does make me wonder if, because it wasn't planned, and now they're going with it filming here in 2 weeks, I do wonder if it is a post-credit scene that maybe then in turn sort of leads into the idea of, hey, the next film that's going to be released is Supergirl. But we'll see.
Mhm.
Marcelino says, I heard early screenings said that the movie is kind of a mess. Really? Because I honestly heard the opposite. I actually heard that people behind the scenes have really gushed about this film and how like really excited they are for it. So I have not heard those reports at all. He says it's because people say that they wanted the TV shows to be super connected back in the Ages of Shield days, but now they want it disconnected. Fans can't make up their minds and are extremely inconsistent. um, yeah, I mean, fans in general, I think, continue to just move the goalposts, sort of thing. I don't know if fans truly know what they want. It's like when people say we want more original movies, but nobody goes to see original movies, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Nerd Mix,
Whenever,
what's up, Indy? Good to see you,
oh,
brother.
hey.
Um, Marcy says I would have been okay if the heroes were just cameos. I'm gonna wait and see. I really intrigued to kind of see how impactful they are to the story itself. Frankie Corn Sweat answer was a chef's kiss for me. I wish so maybe in regards to him being cast. Um, Marcel says, I seriously would like to see James' thoughts on past iterations of the characters used before. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I would love to see his breakdown and his thoughts on that. But look, guys, a lot of new juicy details in regards to the Superman film, along with the Superman teaser trailer as well. At the end of the day, these are our A+ opinions. We want to know yours. How do you feel about some of James Gunn's answers to some of these questions and how he's really looking at these characters and the story and really the focus of the DC studio certainly going forward? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, we will move on to our next topic. We may, depending on how long it takes us to get through some of this stuff, I may end up like cutting out two topics or something like that. I definitely want to get to at least one, two, maybe three other topics. Might have to come back to the other ones in the future, but we'll see how this goes. But let's go ahead and change course from the DCU over to the MCU, baby, as we are just several months away, believe it or not, from the upcoming Daredevil Born Again series. I think a lot of people have certainly anticipated it. I'm really waiting for like a full length official trailer to drop for this thing. I have we had one yet, Stuart? Maybe like a teaser or something like that, like little clips here and there. But have we had an official trailer yet?
No, it's all been part of like the trailer mashups for other upcoming Marvel movies. So we haven't really had a standalone Daredevil trailer.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised about it, to be quite frank with you. But we do have some new insight here from Entertainment Weekly that dropped a brand new article this week. They also gave us some brand new first look images, which I absolutely love. This is a really cool photo, great backlighting in here, if you will, of Charlie Cox as Daredevil, and then we also got a brand new image here of Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. I really love how they continue to come into these roles, and based off of this Entertainment Weekly article that we wind up getting, we've heard stories all the time, Stuart, about just how influential these two are in regards to Daredevil Born Again. And they continue to really be praised for their addition in here. So let's talk about this. This article comes to us from, again, Entertainment Weekly, says how Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio got Daredevil Born Again sort of back on track. They talk about the with the showrunner and Charlie Cox in general in here. And Charlie Cox says season 3 had been well received, and they were already gone to work on season 4. They pitched me a really cool arc for that season. My understanding was they were really heavy into breaking that season in the writer's room, and just overnight it went completely away. They talked about the idea that after that, they were kind of unsure as to whether or not they get the chance to sort of do this again. But he says D'Onofrio was sure that their own TV revival was on the horizon, and Cox called him crazy. But now the two are suiting up again for the next year's Daredevil Born Again. The Kingpin is having the last laugh. Charlie Cox says, I never thought about it being a TV show again. I just assumed that we'd done that, so maybe we'd be doing something else. So I was shocked when they told me in 2022 that they were going to do a show, but I was also thrilled. It was such a great median for this character. There's so much story left to tell. So the more time we had to do it, the better. Do you think with that comment, do you think Charlie Cox was hoping he would get a movie? Because it sounds like he's like, well, we did the TV series thing again. Like maybe the next step would certainly be a movie. I don't know if it's something like Charlie Cox absolutely wanted or needed, but it seems like he was maybe expecting that would be the next iteration of this character.
Yeah, I think so. I think he either expected that he might have been getting his own movie, or that his role in the MCU would be limited just to like cameos in other films like Spider-Man or She-Hulk.
Yeah, you might be right. Shout out to Frankie, man. Frankie coming through with the $5
Oh,
super
thank
chat.
you.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you and all the comments that you've been helping add to the conversation for today's Superman stuff, man. So thank you so much. That definitely will help our production value continue to grow. So thank you so much, man. The article also goes on to say time has passed and the creative personnel has changed as well. In fact, showrunner Dario Scartapane wasn't even brought in until after last year's Hollywood strike in order to retool the revamp after it had gotten off track. This is what the showrunner says. He says, it had been conceived as more of a legal procedural, and we really brought it back towards an action based New York crime story. The real trick was to have the DNA of the old Netflix show, but then push it forward into something very new. He says Cox and D'Onofrio, they knew what their fans wanted, and they fought to make sure Daredevil wouldn't be sanitized just because it was now on Disney Plus. Charlie Cox says the thing that we kept talking about was this show has had the success that it's had and has appealed to a very specific demographic because it's one of those few superhero shows that is so dark and sinister at times. Vincent and I both felt like if you lose that, you are at risk of losing the identity of our show. So we really pushed for the show to remain geared towards an older audience and not dumbed down to any kind of capture a wider net of people. I think in some ways it's even darker than the stuff we've done in the past, Stuart. I mean, I don't know how much darker you can get than the Netflix stuff, but they're really pushing the envelope this time, it seems.
Yeah. This, makes me really happy because it's not that I wouldn't have seen it if it had a TV 14 rating, but knowing that, yeah, they're not letting the Disney Plus logo, sanitize what made the original Daredevil show so good. That definitely brings me a lot of hope. And again, I think I brought this up before, but like hearing that, like, they originally had a completely different plan for season 4 and then they scrapped it, and then apparently what they originally were working on for Born Again was so bad they ended up scrapping that as well. It's kind of funny to think that there are 3 different versions of what the show could have looked like. So I hope that the one we end up getting ends up being the one that actually works. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't change it into something that's certainly not meant to be. And I do love that these two really fought hard to try and keep it that way. They also say, in fact, Cox says that Daredevil Born Again gets so intense that there was some debate over what footage might be tame enough to include
Ooh.
in the recent sizzle reel teaser trailer that we had just recently talked about. He says the end result was a snippet of Murdoch and Fisk sharing a laugh in a diner. I do remember that scene specifically when we talked about it. He says, in its own way, that was more shocking than even the most violent fight scene. He says, according to the showrunner, that moment came purely from Cox and D'Onofrio, not just the storied relationship between their characters, but also their own real life history as stewards of the franchise. He says, I'm so ridiculously proud of that moment where they share a chuckle. It was not in the original scene. They came in and sat down. We were talking about it, and one of them was like, there needs to be a moment of levity, but we realized that it had to be messed up levity. We built that moment through the rehearsal and improv, and it was round robin, and it became the center of that scene. That was them. How those two grind against each other is 100% the engine of the story. We're doing a couple of really different things this season that have not been done in over 40 years of comics. I remember that scene specifically, Stuart, when we watched it, because it was like it was like a nervous, it was like a really tense scene, and there he laughs, and then Matt Murdock laughs, and you just get the sense of like unease, but it is a levity to it. You're like, oh my, like just them laughing was like, this is pure cinema, bro. Like just based off of what their relationship is like, because you can just feel the intensity between these two, and it's just like that awkward sort of relief laughter that's just like, oh my god, what's about to happen next. I remember that scene visually perfectly from the trailer, but yeah, I remember us talking about that scene specifically.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how the actual scene plays out because yeah, I do remember that also from the reel.
But yeah, man, big things are certainly set to happen. This is dropping. Let me see. Does it give me a date? Yeah, Tuesday, March 4th for you guys. So it's going to be here before you know it. Speaking of which, What If is currently on right now. What If season 3 just dropped today.
Ooh.
One episode today. It's going to be 8 episodes, one episode for the next 8 days. So they're not taking weeks off. You're going to get all new ones all the way through to at least, I believe, close up to New Year's here. But yeah, episode 1 today, and then a new episode every day for 8 days. So that will be the last, I believe. Well, I don't know. We've got that. What If, and then I believe Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is in January, isn't it? I think there's something else that drops just before Daredevil Born Again in March. So we got a lot of Disney Plus television series headed your guys' way.
Yeah.
Marcelino says many people are using this topic on why the fans come first and why you should listen to the fans, or why it's important to please the fans, and writers doing their own thing ruins things. Where do you land on that, Stuart?
Well, there's got to be a mixture of the both, because I think that, like, if you hire a writer who wants to tell his own story that isn't related in any way, shape, or form to like the property they're telling the story about, I think that's where you should draw the line, obviously. But I also think that, yeah, if you give the fans everything that they want, then eventually it's just going to get boring, because you'll know exactly what to expect. I always think there's there's definitely a line there, a gray area that you got to figure out, and navigating it. That's what Hollywood writers get paid I almost said a lot of money, but then I remembered, oh, wait, no, writers, never mind. But that's what they get paid for. Maybe not a lot, but it's what they get paid for, is trying to figure out how much do we give the fans what they want, and how much do we tell like our story in order to make it like, an actual personal kind of movie.
And I do think that this situation is significantly different too, because we've got 3 seasons already of this show that were incredible, that fans clearly loved. And then when you come in, you're trying to change that up, and fans are very vocal about like, no, we don't want anything different. Like we literally love the show you gave us. Can you please give that to us? Then in that regards, and I'm like, yeah, if the fans know what they love, if the ratings have always shown this is a great show, certainly the way that it is, and the fans certainly wanted to stay that way, then yeah, certainly listen to the fans, because you've done it before and it's proven successful for you. But the idea of just a fans coming in and saying, no, we want it this way, like, no, I don't. I think because they have a proven track record, that's probably why they decided let's just go back to certainly what works for it. So I mean, I get why they're using it as an example, but I do think it's a bad example. But that's just me though. But yeah, guys, look, I want to know your thoughts. How excited are you for Daredevil Born Again? They talk highly about the idea that this is probably even darker than the Netflix series itself. I'll be really fascinated to see how that translates to the big screen. But let us know, man. Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm very curious if the show lives up to that, actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really curious too. We are going to introduce another story that was not on the docket today, but I did want to stay in the world of the MCU here, because this article actually dropped yesterday evening, which kind of surprised me. But we are going to dive a little bit more into Captain America 4, Brave New World. And I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit more about Captain America 4, one, because it literally drops in April. I mean, in March. Oh, excuse me, February. Damn, Adam.
Oh wow, 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months. It's going to be a Valentine's Day release for Captain America Brave New World. But Entertainment Weekly had an exclusive article titled "Seeing Red: How the New Captain America Turned Harrison Ford into the Red Hulk." I read it yesterday, and I thought it was actually a pretty appealing and informative article, so I wanted to share it with you guys today. I don't have even the banner set up for that one yet, Stuart, so I do apologize. But the producer, Nate Moore, talks highly about this. It says, so how can Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, prides himself on being a non-superpowered superhero, not become instant roadkill in regards to having to face off against somebody like Red Hulk? He says, as soon as we decided this was the story we were going to tell, we realized there was a big hurdle. He says he takes a punch. his head's gonna go flying. The answer, gotta love Wakanda made vibranium wingsuit. Uh, he says that will somewhat level the playing field. I say somewhat because it's a Red Hulk. What are you going to do? We're very conscious of not having the movie feel disingenuous. So giving Sam equipment to survive is different from giving Sam equipment to succeed. And we got ourselves a brand new look here also at Red Hulk. The more and more I see of this Red Hulk design, Stuart, the more and more I'm impressed, man. The attention to detail is really working for me in here. He doesn't feel like a traditional Hulk. And I think they'll go a little bit more into breaking this down, but I do love some of the new images that we're seeing out of this.
Yeah, texture wise, it looks like, for the first time, we're actually seeing improvement in the MCU CG, because it kind of feels like, it plateaued for a while. But looking at this compared to the incredible, to the Hulk design with Mark Ruffalo, it actually feels like, yeah, they've actually kind of improved in terms of like how much texture like they're able to show now, which is saying something, because I think that by the time that they got to Avengers Infinity War, I thought that was when they kind of perfected the look of the Hulk. So it's cool that they're even still being able to improve on it. It makes me hope that Marvel has finally learned their lesson on not rushing CG artists, but it could just be this still image, and maybe for the rest of the movie he looks like crap. Who knows? I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case for sure. It says this was just one of the big questions the Marvel team had to answer when adding the Red Hulk to their sprawling roster of comic book characters, and what a big character he is. He says they break down the creation of this hulking, out of control brute. He says the Red Hulk in the comics is not entirely a monster. He has more of a human personality to him. So we're trying to create something that felt a little bit more human to match Ross's personality. Um, he says somewhere along the way, newly elected President Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, taking inspiration from the character arcs in the comics, will be reshaped into the Red Hulk, and Sam has the uninviable job of subduing him without dying in the process or, killing the sitting U.S. president. This was another shot that they had exclusive image wise that I thought was really incredibly detailed. Like I can see the Harrison Ford influence in this one for sure.
Definitely. Like if I saw this and I had to like immediately, if I didn't know that Harrison Ford was cast in the role, immediately from seeing this image, I'm like, oh, that's Harrison Ford.
Yeah, it's pretty eerily crazy. It says Moore confirms that Marvel discussed Red Hulk's plan with the original Ross actor William Hurt, who played the role across 5 films. He was very excited to come back, to be quite frank. The actor unfortunately passed at the age of 71 in March of 2022, which forced the team to reevaluate. When he passed, it was a surprise. You figure out if it's worth proceeding with the story you have or trying something else. It just so happened that Harrison Ford reached out to Kevin Feige about potentially playing in Marvel's Sandbox. So that's interesting that they didn't approach necessarily Harrison Ford for a role, but Harrison actually came to them, which I think is pretty stunning.
That's genuinely surprising to me.
Yeah, me too. It says Moore was understandably a bit floored initially that the acerbic actor of Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and Blade Runner fame had any interest in Marvel, let alone taking over a role from the late Oscar winner. We didn't assume anybody would be game. He says Harrison saw it, I think, as an opportunity to both honor Williams' work and to continue that character arc, which Harrison thought was really interesting in the other movies. Red Hulk is a character the Marvel team tracked for some time before landing on Captain America Brave New World as the film that would bring him into the MCU. It began with The Incredible Hulk, in which Ross then is general in the United States, U.S. military, spent all his time chasing Bruce Banner. For Ross to now become the very thing he once loathed felt like meaty material. What we liked was this notion of a man who is trying to do the best he can, but can't quite outrun the demons of his past. Turning the guy who hunted Hulks into a Hulk himself makes him more than an antagonist and makes him a tragic character. I love that viewpoint of him. It's not one that really kind of hit me when thinking about the idea of Ross turning into sort of a Hulk himself. But when they put it that way, like I could see why somebody like Harrison Ford would find some material in that, in the sense of like he could really explore that, I think. And I think also it puts in perspective what I think the article might go on to say, like, not that he's become what he loathes, but clearly as a military man, I think the idea of him then becoming president of the United States probably isn't like his first choice. You know what I mean? He probably has had to push back against previous presidents in order to kind of get his way as part of the U.S. military. And so now that he finds himself in that position, I do think that Harrison Ford has something he can really sink his teeth into in this.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I didn't think of it in that perspective. Just because with it being Ross, I just kind of, he always had like kind of a one-sided way of viewing things. So I didn't think like him turning into the Hulk would really change his perspective or anything. But hearing this is actually kind of interesting. It's cool that he's not going to be kind of like the two-dimensional a-hole that we saw like in the Incredible Hulk. We're actually going to see like a bit of layers to this character, which I don't think we've gotten in the MCU before.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It does make me fascinated. Again, I think one of the things that I've always really enjoyed, and I've kind of hoped that they always went back to with Captain America films, is the concept of like the spy espionage thriller kind of perspective. They talk about, oh, this is, they're going back to their Winter Soldier routes, and that's a really heavy task to certainly ask for somebody. But if you can have certain character arc beats that feel very much in a grounded world, I do think the Ross storyline alone, and they'll get a little bit into Sam and Ross's relationship here in just a second, but that is an aspect of really focusing on a character detail and a character arc that feels very reminiscent of something like past MCU kind of levels of storytelling. And while there are elements to this movie that I feel like, again, it's coming in as one of the longest Marvel films that they've had, my worry is there too much going on to this movie? Will they be able to allow the character arcs to have great pacing and breathe at times without feeling like it's like there's too much going on? Like I think for me, the pacing of this movie, I think, is going to be really important in regards to it. But the story elements for the characters seem to be there. But we'll see how the execution is at the end of the day.
Definitely.
It also serves the narrative between Sam and Ross. The president initially welcomes the new Captain America to the White House with the task of reconstituting the Avengers, but later they find themselves at odds because politically and morally, when this global conspiracy kicks off. More points to the Secret Empire comic book arc. He says it's the notion of a guy who believes an ideal, realizing that ideal is not always held up to the same standards by other people, and feeling really betrayed by where the American government had gone, he says. While Brave New World is not adapting Secret Empire, more recognizes the intrigue in Sam sparring with the president while cloaked in the colors of the American flag. He says the Red Hulk is the cherry on the sundae because then you get to have a physical manifestation of that. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. They also go on to say later on in here, um, when talking about designing the Red Hulk, there's an anger and everything that goes into that. But Julius wanted him to feel more tactical than the Green Hulk. It's Thaddeus Ross, right? He's military, he's trained. Julius gave us a reference of a bear in terms of how he poses himself on all fours. Even during the action sequences, it's extremely aggressive in a different way in terms of slightly more methodical actions. Uh, I'm trying to see. Those are Harrison Ford's actual eyes in there. You'd be surprised how important that actually is. He's got the most identifiable faces in cinema history. Talking about trying to get the likeness, which you pointed out, right? Like when you look at the Red Hulk, you can automatically say that that's him. He says they even got the 82-year-old Ford in a motion capture suit. He says, let me tell you, he was all in that morning. The last thing you want is to be the person that hurts Harrison Ford. At one point, I needed him landing and thought we can have a stunt guy do it. He's like, no, I'll do it. He says, I put an apple box so that's about a 2-foot jump off the ground. He says, I'm like, I need you to jump down into the ground and land as a Hulk. He did it about 1,000 times, and every single time I held my breath, but he went all in. I think that's so cool, man. I think that's really
the dude
so cool.
survived. The dude walked away from a plane crash. I think he'll be totally fine, doing a couple of superhero landings.
Yeah, didn't he also a door in Star Wars, I think, fell on his ankle or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think that's how he broke his ankle while filming Force Awakens.
Yeah. He says, we had choreography for the fight scenes, talking about to allow Sam to constantly be using his wings, basically 2 additional limbs so that he can take the Hulk punches from time to time. But he does everything that he can to avoid those anyway. You'll see it in the action sequence. It's not fun when he gets hit, is what he says. So I don't know. I just thought that was a really interesting breaking down of bringing the Hulk, Red Hulk to life, along with really the mindset of what Thaddeus Ross is going through.
Agreed.
But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts in regards to Captain America 4 set to go ahead and drop on February of this year. And then I want to say last but not least, this may be our last topic, but we'll see how we get through it. Stuart, this was set to be one of my most anticipated movies of 2024. And that is, in fact, Karate Kid Legends.
Yeah.
I had this on my list for 2024 because I was expecting it to drop December of this year. But due to the release of Cobra Kai season 6 wrapping up in 2025, they end up pushing this movie back to 2025. And so I am still eagerly awaiting this film and cannot wait for it to certainly drop. And this week, Stuart, we finally got ourselves the official trailer for it. This film is going to be directed by Jonathan Entwistle, who was once attached to the Power Rangers reboot. He's had a couple of television series also over on Netflix, but we finally got our very first look. They even dropped some new images too. Entertainment Weekly did a fantastic article on it that we'll dive a little bit into here in just a second. But they did give us some new images to look forward to, as we really have 2 generational legends here in Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan reprising their roles from the past Karate Kid films. I'm sure you probably have had the opportunity trailer itself already, Stuart, but I do want to revisit this with you a little bit. And then I think we had this other image that wind up dropping too. If you guys are just excited for Karate Kid Legends as I am, sound off in the comment section box below for us. But Stuart, let's dive into this trailer a little bit and then give our thoughts. I don't think we did a review for this on the channel as of yet. I did want to hold off on this until today, but let's go ahead and check out this trailer. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let me just make sure I have the audio playing properly here for this. Okay, here we go.
Our traditions are rooted in history. Kung Fu, karate. The tree grows strong.
You knew Mr. Miyagi?
I did not come looking for Sensei Miyagi. I came looking for you. In life, you have only one question. Is it worth fighting for it? Or not? Lee means to me what you meant to Sensei Miyagi.
I'm doing this for all of us. Whatever it takes.
God damn, I love that shot.
2 branches. one tree.
Yo, my anticipation for this movie is out of the freaking world, man. Um, I am really excited for this film, Stuart. Like truly, bro. Um, I don't know how you feel about the Karate Kid series in general. I know you've been watching the Cobra Kai stuff, so I know you are a fan. But getting an opportunity to see this trailer, what are your thoughts on it, man? I need to know.
Trailer looks fantastic. There are so many subtle things in here that I think really go a long way with telling us what kind of movie we're getting into with here. It almost feels kind of like a reverse Karate Kid from the remake, specifically the Jaden Smith Karate Kid remake, because in that one, we get an American going to China, and so basically being a foreigner to China, trying to fit in and all that kind of stuff. But here it seems to be the opposite. Like we have someone moving to America, and it looks like they're having a hard time fitting in America. And what's cool too is that we know that he has a similar backstory to Jaden Smith's character, Dre, I believe that was his name, where a dad who's clearly passed away, and that from like the one shot you get with him and his mom. Basically, I forgot what those are called, but like putting up like one of those lanterns, in memory of someone, and you can kind of assume because there isn't an adult male figure there that it's probably for their dad that they're doing that for. So I love how just like from those shots alone that tells you so much about this character and what he's going through, what kind of arc we can see him go through in this movie. So similar enough but also different enough to give you everything you love about the previous Karate Kid movies, but changing just enough to let us know this is going to be a whole new original story. And then I'm looking forward to seeing Daniel working with Han, seeing it, because it seems like they're working together in the trailer very well, but it's a movie, and movie's got a movie. So obviously I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of conflicts there might be in the way they teach, kind of what you get with Daniel and Johnny. Although I don't see the two of them like straight up fighting each other over their different techniques, but I do see them kind of being like, well, Mr. Miyagi taught me this, and Han being like, well, I was taught this, because I imagine Kung Fu and karate have very different types of, mental like stages, I guess, or a different mentality altogether is what I'm trying to get at with the two of them. But I think everything that we've seen so far, cinematography looks great, especially like the shot that you pointed out with that kick, like the way the camera follows him, and just oh my gosh, the impact you get with it, you totally feel that. Like that was such a cool shot. It's cool that looking it up, it does look like that this does take place 3 years after Cobra Kai, which I think is the smartest move, because
really? Okay.
it means you can keep it in continuity without having to worry about like audiences seeing this like as their first Karate Kid movie and being completely confused on in terms of what Cobra Kai set up. They don't have to worry about anything like that. So I am going to be very curious. Obviously, some of these questions may be answered by the end of Cobra Kai season 3, but I'm curious where Daniel LaRusso is in, with his life, because he's been hinting at the idea of retiring from being a sensei after the Zenkai tournament. So I'm curious if he goes through with retirement, and if so, what about this kid, encourages him to step out of retirement from, being a sensei, and makes him want to teach again.
Yeah, man, I am fascinated. I'm curious if that tidbits in the Entertainment Weekly article that dropped with it. I may have a skim through some of it for a few minutes to get some further details about this movie, as Jonathan Entwistle talks a little bit about it. So yeah, I'm fascinated by that. It does take some place at sometime after Cobra Kai. Let me just say, Jonathan Entwistle, you are going to be sorely missed as the non-Power Ranger reboot director, my guy. Just looking at this trailer alone, I keep thinking to myself, God, he would be great at directing Power Rangers, man. I mean, I would agree with you. Cinematography choices are great. Some of the panning shots from a directorial sort of scene shooting just looks incredible. I love some of the quick sort of in quick in pans, if you will, from just really getting like the visceral feel of the fighting, especially when they are clearly fighting like in a big group. Like we even get the opportunity to see Jackie Chan getting on the action, Ralph Macchio getting on the action. Also, it looks like maybe they're trying to help this character, Ben Wong's character, kind of survive a brawl or whatever the case may be when things maybe get a little bit unfair. So I'm glad that these two are actually getting involved in it in some capacity. But there is one element in this trailer that really stands out to me and is very impactful. And I think it's the moment when you get the shot of the Mr. Miyagi photo and Daniel asks, "Are you here to see Mr. Miyagi or ask about him?" I love that it's Mr. Han saying, "No, I'm here for you." And it's just something really cool. It gives me chills like, oh my God, bro, you are the Mr. Miyagi now. Like the fact that somebody is literally coming to him because it's like Daniel's legend, if you will, has kind of grown and is worldwide, and people know of him and the things that he's contributed and that he's done in his life, sort of thing. And so it's just really cool, especially when it comes from somebody like Jackie Chan, who is just such a legend in his own right, even though he's playing a character, Mr. Han. To go to somebody like a Daniel LaRusso, something just really hits me. And I also love the fact of Mr. Han referencing the idea that this character is as close to me as you were, like meant this much to me as you meant to Mr. Miyagi. And so I'm sure it's one of those things for Mr. Han that the guy's come a long way since the last time that we saw him in the Karate Kid movie, right? I think he was like a janitor or something like that, right? So he's clearly built up a name for himself, a school for himself, a legacy for himself in his own right, and is now have students of his own and students that he clearly cherishes. And so to be able to have to I don't want to say give your student over to somebody else, but to help your student kind of take that next step and find a place for himself and to reach out to somebody else like a Daniel LaRusso to help him get to that point. It's really impactful for me. And when Daniel says something along the lines of two branches, one tree, and gives him the band, the headband, I'm just like, this is truly a coming together of generations in here, in the sense of making both styles, both generations kind of work together. And as somebody that loves the classic Karate Kid, nostalgia factor for sure, but also just being really hopeful that, especially after the Karate Kid movie with Jaden Smith and continuing on that story, it's just really cool to see and feel the Karate Kid franchise truly going really strong right now. And so, yeah, it definitely has Karate Kid tropes and moments of the kid being out of place, getting beat up, having to find out what's worth fighting for and what isn't. But it's just really cool, I think, to have Daniel and Mr. Han as your mentors in here to take somebody like the Ben Wan character to the next level. It's just, yeah, man, it just feels classic Karate Kid for me. I'm here for it, honestly.
Definitely agree. And I think this was a great decision in terms of like where Cobra Kai was going, because I love Cobra Kai. I'm so glad it's ending the season though, because it's just every season it's like they're trying to one up how ridiculous the previous season was. And it's a show where I can't say it ever jumped the shark, because even though it started out pretty grounded, it just gradually got sillier and sillier every season, but it was all done so slowly that you kind of don't notice how weird it gets by the time you get to like season 5. So as much as I love Cobra Kai, I think it's ending at the perfect time, just as it was really getting a little bit too over the top. So I like that we're now with this movie taking a huge step backwards, just taking a breath and going, okay, let's go back to a little more of a personal touch, like we kind of had at the very beginning of Cobra Kai, and like what we got from the first Karate Kid and the Karate Kid remake. We're going back to that, it looks like, with this movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect timing. I honestly couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I do want to dive into. Maybe we'll take like 5 minutes or so to just dive into this Entertainment Weekly article before we move on to live viewer questions. But I did want to go ahead and highlight this. And we'll kind of go through this interview, but they do ask, there have been rumblings about a Karate Kid movie since 2014. Finally, Sony announced what would ultimately be Karate Kid Legends in 2022. Jonathan, at what point did you get involved in the project? He says, I was originally sent the script in early 2022. It had all the pieces in it for Ben's character, Lee, but it had a very different ending. One of the things that was really exciting to me was when I first read it, this idea of connecting Jackie Chan character of Mr. Han with Daniel LaRusso, both from the movies and then subsequently from Cobra Kai. When I first read the script, Cobra Kai was nowhere near as far along as it is now. It all germinated at some kind at kind of the same time. He does ask, he says, Ben, you sent in a tape of yourself for your first audition. Did you show off any martial arts skills in that video? He says, I did do martial arts. I was actually visiting my mom in China at the time. My mom worked in the countryside in school, and I got the email on my phone. They were like, they want to see you do some martial arts. So I made the tape in the gymnasium of her school. I don't know if you guys ever looked at that and went, where the hell is he? So this is Ben Wong. He coming off of what is the Disney Plus series that he just had, American Born Chinese or something like that?
Chinese.
Yeah, where he's also I think Michelle Yeoh is in there. I think it's a heavily martial arts show also. And also says it was very important that we could find somebody who could also speak Mandarin and who can do martial arts. And we also wanted someone who was an amazing actor. Those three things are really, really difficult to find. We started watching many, many auditions tapes, and a lot of people could do one or two of the three, but it was really difficult to find the Holy Trinity. When we saw Ben's tape, we were like, wow, this kid is in rural China. We found this guy who's in the middle of nowhere. Only to find out that he's from Minnesota. but that also helped us become because Ben could fluently understand the Mandarin and the American side of what the story was all about. They asked Ben what his background was in martial arts. He says, the truth is I have a little bit of experience in a lot of different kinds of martial arts, but most of it was after school taekwondo that I was doing when I was in grade school. It was really fun. I had some great teachers, not really on that level that would prepare you to do a movie like this. The majority of the stuff that you see in the movie is what I worked on with the amazing stunt team led by our stunt coordinators. I trained with them for about a month and a half before we started shooting. We trained 5 days a week, but I was practicing my own on the weekend, so it was kind of nonstop. They asked Jonathan, how do Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san come together in the story? He says, without giving too much away, I can say that Mr. Han and Mr. Miyagi are the connection to Daniel. The Han family and the Miyagi family are connected all the way back to the old times. And there is a mention of this within the Karate Kid movie canon for those who want to go looking for it. What?
Wait, really?
He says, without giving too much away, I can say that Mr. Han and Mr. Miyagi are the connection to Daniel. The Han family and the Miyagi family are connected all the way back to the old times. And there is a mention of this within the Karate Kid movie canon for those who want to go looking for it. Maybe it's time to check out the next Karate Kid. I wonder if they referenced that in there somewhere. Or interesting.
I wish he said which movie, because I'm like trying to think, like, is he talking, do they mention it in the remake
original trilogy
or in, like, somewhere in the original?
Damn, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it now. Damn. He says, how do you describe Jackie Chan's presence on set? He says, apart from being a wonderful human being who's very warm, he's the type of actor that does not leave. When his day is done, he would often find him sitting next to me, sitting next to the DP, telling stories, talking to the actors. Jackie Chan is a movie star, and that is something that you don't see much anymore. He had the ability to come up with a tiny idea that I never thought of, and all of Jackie's tiny ideas are in the movie. He was like the magical Dumbledore to us on set, and he's like that in the movie too. One of the examples, he says, there's a wonderful fight sequence in the movie, which I'm not going to spoil. And Jackie had the idea to jump out at Ben from a random corner of the spaces without Ben even knowing where he was going to be. He wanted to jump out from that spot that would have the most effect. He was always looking for an opportunity to either roll on the floor, roll over a table, jump off the staircase. He would just be like, I will do this. None of us ever had a chance. It was like Jackie would have an idea and we just filmed it because it's Jackie, and it would always be awesome. Yeah, man. If Jackie wants to do something, let the man do whatever he wants to. I mean, this guy has made movie after movie. He knows it works, especially when it comes to action sequences, like how things look on set, how things should be filmed. I mean, I'm so glad that they allowed him to really be him on this set.
Definitely. When it comes to stunts, especially, it's like if I come up with a cool like idea for a fight scene in my head and I pitch it to Jackie Chan, if he's like, nope, we're doing this, and this, I'm gonna be like, you know what? you know what you're doing. Let's do it.
Give us a preview of the most challenging scene you had to shoot. Ben says our stunt team and the whole crew were so excellent at these fight scenes, which are very, very, very difficult to execute. They have plans for every contingency, for everything that needed to be done. They were really long and really hard days, but it never felt impossible. It is not super sexy, but on movies like this, really the hardest stuff is when you had to pretend it's summer, but it's winter and it's 30 degrees out and you're wearing a t-shirt. And Jonathan goes, right, do it again. Go back to one, start again, and you're freezing. You're really trying hard to act, and you do 17 takes, and then Jonathan goes, right, I think we'll just use the first one. Jonathan says, yeah, we set out to make something that was both cinematic and action-packed. The fight sequences, they're really exciting. My hope is that we're sitting in the theater and you're on the edge of your seat. And then it says, were you in contact with Cobra Kai creators throughout the production? We know the movie takes place after the events of Cobra Kai. What else can you tell us about how Legends connects to the world of Cobra Kai? He says, I've been a huge fan of Cobra Kai right from the beginning, and that's one of the reasons that I thought this was such an exciting project. I was excited about the idea that the films in this series can all be a part of one family. I had been really detailed conversation with the Cobra Kai team about just cool stuff that we can do in the movie and can make this whole thing feel holistic. And obviously, Ralph is really, really close to it after all these years that they've been involved in little steps along the way. Everything we talked about it in the movie in some way or another, either through Ralph or through conversations. We're really excited that we added another piece to the overall universe. So cool, man. I'm glad that they had that much connect. It really is a connective tissue and a big cinematic universe that they're really building here for Karate Kid, man. And I'm honestly here for it.
Definitely. Yeah, I am kind of relieved that not only is it like Cobra Kai is like kind of connected, but it's also the fact that Jonathan Entwistle was a fan of Cobra Kai. Just kind of reassures me that like, yeah, it's my biggest fear going into this movie was that they were just going to pretend Cobra Kai didn't exist, and the only thing that was going to matter was going to be the 2010 Karate Kid movie and the original Karate Kid movie. Like I didn't even think like the sequels would matter, but I do love hearing that like, yeah, no, everything not matters as in you have to watch them before watching this movie, but everything is, still connected into this, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, I really do love that feeling too. And it's definitely going to make me want to rewatch these movies to find out this Mr. Han and Miyagi connection that goes all the way back. I feel like it's so subtle. Maybe like just one line and you miss it sort of thing. So I'm going to be trying to hear about the Han family, or maybe it's somebody that he met during his wartime. Maybe he's talking about a old story of his. I almost want to go back to watch Karate Kid 2 when they go back to his homeland. Maybe he references something there. I don't know. I don't think the Han family is the opposing family that he deals with in Karate Kid 2. I'm gonna have to double check, man. I'm gonna have to look. Shout out to Crystal Kyber coming through, our other High Council member from our Skeleton Crew reviews, just popping in and say hi, Adam and Stuart. We appreciate the support, Crystal, as always, man. Thank you so much.
Something I'd be curious about, though, is if in the movie they mention where the mention is from the Karate Kid movie. So, for example, in Cobra Kai, you have so many legacy characters like kind of coming in, especially this last season. And because now some of them are so obscure, they're like characters who you see for a brief moment in some of the other Karate Kid movies. It's like they have to constantly flash back to remind you where you've seen them before. It wouldn't surprise me if they do that with this movie. It's just like, I knew Han, and then we get to a flashback of which Karate Kid movie it mentions that the two of them knew each other.
It's like, oh, dang it. Yeah, for sure. Marcelina says, it's crazy that you're excited for the next Karate Kid movie since it's being made by Sony. Look, I will say when it comes to Sony, my trepidation really comes from their Marvel Universe characters that they wind up using. That's really what it is. That's where the mediocrity, I think, really shows itself. I thought the what was the Tom Holland movie with Mark Wahlberg? The Uncharted.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of mediocre in and of itself too, but I think the legacy alone of Karate Kid makes me feel a little bit safer. I've loved the past movies. I really have loved what Cobra Kai has certainly done. And they got a great director, I think, in Jonathan Entwistle, and some great actors on board as well. That kind of gives me a little bit more hope and enthusiasm for this being a Sony project, honestly. So I think it's the previous work from Karate Kid in general that has me more excited, not because it's Sony though.
Yeah, and that all being said, I think Sony only does. I mean, I think their worst is when they're doing Marvel, but when it comes to other movies, I think it's hit and miss, like every studio.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think I'm gonna cancel the other two topics that we had planned. Since we went a little bit over, I did plug in the that Captain America one a little bit too long, so I do apologize, guys. But just a real brief. The other one was going to be a 007 article where you've got apparently there's some issues going on behind the scenes with the Broccoli family that owns sort of like, and they don't own the creative right, but they have like creative say on James Bond and Amazon. Apparently they're clashing behind the scenes right now. So yeah, it may be a while before we get ourselves a James Bond movie, but we'll see. Maybe I'll do a separate video, or we'll circle back around for that later.
And like I mentioned before, I love James Bond, but I'm definitely not in a hurry for the next James Bond movie.
No, I totally get you there. All right, Stuart, with that out of the way, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get into our live viewer questions segment of the show. Let me go ahead and pop on some music here. Give me a few minutes to sound normal. Go ahead and play this for us.
Try one more time.
It usually give it a couple minutes to stabilize. We should be okay here shortly, though. There we go. But we got live viewer questions up. If you guys ever want to go ahead and submit a live viewer question over, we usually will post this on Saturday afternoons or Saturday evenings. Just go over to our YouTube channel, as you see right here. Click on that community tab. And as you'll see, live viewer question post. We posted this about 19 hours ago. Got quite a few questions here. So let's dive in and see what we got, y'all. Jessica Friedman, or I'm sorry, Marcelino's first. Marcelino, did you ever see the TV show Why the Last Man? If so, what did you think of it? I remember there was a level of excitement that I had about it because I did enjoy the comic book series, but I didn't watch it at first, and then I started hearing sort of lukewarm reception towards it, and I just never decided to watch it at the end of the day. But I know it was a huge comic back in the day. I think it was from Vertigo or Dark Horse. Something tells me it was Vertigo, but maybe I'm wrong. Did you ever check out Why the Last Man, Stuart?
No, I don't think I've ever heard of it.
I think it was like a disease, if I'm not mistaken, that killed off, was it like all the men, I think, in the world with the exception of one, and I think the world became like a world of women. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And it was about this guy literally trying to survive out there in this world. You might have to look up the premise of it, but it's been a minute since I've read the comic. He said, my main problem with Why the Last Man was that the main guy felt like a secondary character in his own show. Damn. Yeah. Is it on a streaming service, Marcelino, anywhere? If it is, let me know. Maybe it is something I'll go back and double check or try and watch again on my own. He also says John Cryer at one point pitched an idea of a Legion of Doom spinoff. Assuming if CW didn't go bankrupt, how do you think the show would have been used in the Arrowverse? Would it be a miniseries that set up stuff in the future? Would it turn into a Legion of Doom into Heroes? That's a good question. I do like the concept of a Legion of Doom. Could they have gone the route of anti-heroes? I mean, anti-heroes have sort of become a thing lately. That could have easily been a route that they went. There's a part of me that thinks it might have taken, I don't know if I would have seen Legions of Doom as a spin-off series so much as I would have seen it as similar to how we had Crisis or like other crossover events. Like I could see Arrowverse Legion of Doom or Arrowverse Doom or something like that as like a 4 or 5 parter. So in a sense, maybe a mini series that's like a crossover event. I could probably see it play out more or less that way than a spin-off series. But what about you, Stuart? Do you think a spin-off series would have worked, or would it had to have been something crossover feel?
Yeah, I don't know if it would have worked as like a full series where it's just the Legion of Doom as the main characters, but I think the Legion of Doom existing in one of the TV shows would have worked. Like if we got them in Legends of Tomorrow, or like you said, if it was through a crossover event, I think that would have worked really well. Because we kind of got the Legion of Doom in Legends of Tomorrow, but it wasn't like a full team. It was just like literally 3 people. So it would have been cool to kind of like see a more complete Legion of Doom, whether it was like an entire season of a show or if it was just a 5-part crossover.
Yeah, I would have loved it as like the next crossover event, especially since Crisis sort of set up like the like our own Justice League. To have to be able to kind of call them back into form to go against another powerful threat. Yeah, I would have taken it as the next crossover event, bringing back the Justice League, if you will. I think they would have worked that way. He says, if it were up to me, I would have rejected a Legion of Doom spinoff and only used it as a crossover villain. Yeah, me too. I would have used him as like a 4 or 5-parter for sure. He says, yeah, they had him in season 2 of Legion of Tomorrow. I like the team roster that they had. But by the time we get to where we are at the end of Crisis, I would be interested to see like what new villains they certainly would have utilized in there. But yeah, I would agree with you. A crossover felt more appropriate for that. Did you ever see the 1982 movie White Dog? To give a quick rundown, it's about a white dog that was trained by a racist to attack black people, and everyone tries to rehabilitate it with a black male trainer. It's based on a book where the book is even worse, because in the book they successfully rehabilitate the dog, but the black trainer then trains the dog to attack white instead. What? The author of the novel, Romain Gary, said he wanted the book to be used as a vehicle to denounce both racism and activists supporting African American rights. He even created a fictionalized version of both his ex-wife and Marlon Brando, who are both civil rights activists. So, what are your thoughts on this? Oh man, that's crazy. I would need to give the book a read in order to give my proper thoughts on it, to see just like the context of it. But that's crazy. I had never heard of that before. 82 was my year of birth, so I definitely didn't know about this as I grew up. But I'll look into that. That sounds crazy to me, though.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it, but that sounds like a crazy concept.
Yeah, bro. Wow.
Especially with the book, how it like goes from being
Even
trained
worse?
for one and then like suddenly gets trained for the other. It's like, dang.
My next question was like, is this based off a true story? But like, damn. Jessica Fryman, do you think it's time for Sony to give the rights to Spider-Man back to Marvel? And do you think it's time for Wonder Woman to rejoin the DCEU? The second part next. Hey, look, I'm always open for the Wonder Woman to certainly return. I wouldn't mind them taking their time, just because we have had 2 Wonder Woman movies. So if they want to give other characters an opportunity to shine, that's cool. I mean, I understand Wonder Woman's part of their big 3 here, but I still think people, despite how people felt about 1984, I still think people enjoyed Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, similar to how they really enjoyed Henry Cavill as Superman. So maybe you take some time before recasting her, if that's the route that they certainly want to go. Every year Gal Gadot certainly gets older, and I don't necessarily know if they would want to bring her back, because I think if they bring her back, then it's like, how about Henry Cavill? Why didn't you bring Henry Cavill back, right? So I think they'll probably take their time in bringing Wonder Woman back. I have heard James Gunn say Paradise Lost is in very active development, so they're clearly still working on sort of like this prologue story to the origins of Wonder Woman here. So I think they have some time before Wonder Woman certainly comes back. So I personally don't see the rush. But what about you, Stuart? And do you think it's time for Sony to give up the rights back to Marvel?
I mean, I think it's been time since the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but that's just me. As for the first part, with Wonder Woman, or as for the second part with Wonder Woman, yeah, I'm like not in a super big hurry, but yeah, I do want to see her in the DC universe sooner than later. But yeah, I like Gal Gadot, but I do kind of agree. I kind of hope they go with a new actress to play Wonder Woman, preferably someone who's like big and like someone who, honestly, at least 6 foot, maybe even taller for Wonder Woman. Just
Okay.
because, in the comic book, she tends to tower over both Batman and Superman at times, depending on
That's
who's
true.
drawing her. So that's the kind of Wonder Woman I would love to see in the DC universe.
Yeah, I would be completely open for that too. I would be interested to see like who the casting choices would be of a woman over 6 foot that can really like, still give a great sort of performance. And that talented. I don't really know that many really tall actresses like that, or maybe they just haven't been discovered or given chances yet. So always open to that idea. As far as Sony, look, I want Sony to give the rights back to Marvel personally. Do I think they're going to do it? Absolutely not. I think it's just, if you've got the rights to it, why? Like, why? I mean, the potential of eventually getting something right and having a big financial success, I think, is always in the back of Sony's mind. It is a cash cow if you do it correctly. I mean, we've seen them do great work with the animated stuff. They've got the television series for Spider Noir coming out, which I'm kind of hopeful for. If they focus on the Spider-Man stuff that they have now, which they've said, and then decide to take a step back in a way, maybe they will, look at it in a sense of really approaching it differently when they decide to take future swings at some of these characters. But yeah, I mean, look, I think it's time for them to send it over to Marvel, but I don't think it's a realistic thing. I think Sony would be really stupid to do that just from a financial aspect from it. And granted, while they haven't really been making money because of the flops that these movies have, I think the potential alone of knowing how important Spider-Man is worth keeping it in that regard. So I think they'll still continue to pump out movies, but we'll see if they take a different approach going forward, though.
Yeah.
Doomsday. Doesn't it feel strange to you that we're at the end of 2024 and we haven't gotten a new Power Rangers season yet? I mean, it is strange to me just because it feels like one of the biggest fumbles of 2024, if I could be honest with you. I think if you look back and think of like missed opportunities, I think this will come back to haunt Power Rangers and Hasbro in some capacity. It's just kind of crazy to me, the direction that this franchise has taken after the passing of Brian Goldner, who had a really big vision, only for it to be squabbled by Chris Cox, who was like, I want more Dungeons and Dragons. I want more tabletop games. I mean, I get it, bro. Like, I get it, but to fumble the bag that much after Hasbro spent so much money to get the rights to it, and now seeing Jonathan Entwistle do like double backflips on your ass with this new Karate Kid Legends trailer, it's just like one of the biggest fumbles, man. So yeah, it feels a little bit odd to not have anything Power Rangers related. And just missed opportunities each year as we continue to go along with no Power Rangers on the table. Because I think it's unfortunate because Pacific Rim has a television series coming out. Voltron's got a movie that's about to come out. It just feels like other things are now going to be overshadowing the opportunity of Power Rangers to grab a new fan base for a new generation, unfortunately. So, look, we always got Super Sentai to fall back on, but it does feel weird not having any Power Rangers around.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially because, yeah, like you said, with all the stuff coming out, by the time we do get a Power Rangers reboot, I feel like people are already going to be like, well, we already have Voltron, so why would we care about Power Rangers now?
Yeah, it's tough. It's going to be tough. Did you notice that pretty much all the major Power Ranger crossover episodes, not the small team up episodes where it's just the current team and then the previous team, had at least one Ranger from the original Mighty Morphin? We had Jason in Wild Force, Adam in Operation Overdrive, Tommy in Super Mega Force, Tommy again and Rocky in Super Ninja Steel, and Jason again in Beast Morpher Season 2. Yeah, did you notice that pretty much all the major Power Ranger crossover episodes had at least one Ranger from all the... Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't recognize that, but yeah, it's you go back to what works, man. Go back to what works. Did you find it ironic how Netflix removed shows and movies that are exclusive to the streaming service? That is weird to me, Stuart.
That is. I don't know if it's like a licensing thing, and so it costs more money to keep them on here, or if it's royalties that they have to like pay too much royalties, and so it's just not worth it to them. Either way, I think it's scummy of them to do. If it's an original show, that's something you should keep on your service. I think it's kind of dumb if you take it off. especially because most of them don't even go out on physical media on DVD or anything like that. So it's like, how are people supposed to watch it without pirating it at that point?
Yeah, that's heartbreaking to me, man. Somebody just gave me my Secret Santa just gave me Avengers Endgame on Blu-ray, which surprisingly I hadn't had it in my my collection. And I was just thinking to myself, like, man, I know Blu-rays are old at this point, but it's like there is something to having physical media these days that, especially when things like streaming services continue to remove the content and stuff that you want to watch, to not be able to go back and watch what you want to watch. Like when I think of like Voltron, Legendary Defender, I really want to go back and watch that show again. And I unfortunately missed my opportunity to go ahead and do so since it's been removed, which is an original Netflix show removed in early December. And maybe they have a box set of Voltron Legendary Defender, I'm not sure, but it just continues to show the importance of, if you love a show and you want to hold on to it, get you a physical media version of it, because it may not be there for long. But I would agree with you. I think it has more to do with just not wanting to pay, these studios or the people involved over time.
Yeah. It also, not only do you want to get physical media for that reason, for the idea that like it may be taken off the shelf and never seen again, but if you want the original cut of something, it may be your best shot, because in terms of, so one example is Scrubs. They lost the licensing for a lot of the music they use in the show. So if you watch it on Hulu, it's not the same show that you watched on TV. A lot of the music has been replaced because they just don't have the licensing for it anymore. So the only way you can listen to the original version of it is through like DVDs. Not to mention certain episodes and some shows will always be banned. So, if you ever want to get those up, like South Park, the 200th episode special, it still pisses me off that there's only one way to get it, and that's if you bought the original DVD. Like there's no other way to get it. So that those are other benefits you get with physical media. You can own media that is almost impossible to find online now.
Yeah, and for a while I stopped collecting Blu-rays and getting physical media, because I was like, oh well, I've got this stuff on streaming service if I want to go back and watch it for myself. But now it's almost like, it feels like it's a resurgence for me. Like, man, I should really get the DVDs or the Blu-rays of things that I really love, because I may not be able to find it eventually in a few years. Marceline on the previous question says, to me, Wonder Woman should get as many movies as Batman and Superman. I totally agree with you. The Marvel Netflix show made sense because of Marvel, but Voltron doesn't make sense. Yeah, it does not make sense to me.
I guess they're doing it because F you to Amazon. They don't want to give Voltron more publicity, I guess.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Blossom, since the new Sentai is coming, what are your expectations for it? This is probably the first show I don't have expectations for. Just because I haven't really watched a full season of Super Sentai in quite some time. I just want them to make a good show at this point. I don't know. I fell off of Boom Boomger, so I don't know how much it's changed since I wound up watching it. Not because I didn't think it was a good show. It's just so many damn episodes for me to keep up with these days. And also, to be fair, when I was doing reviews, there was a subscription service that I was subscribed to for like $8 a month or something like that in order to get these shows in like HD quality. But I eventually just didn't want to spend $8 anymore. So like once I stopped paying for it, like I just stopped watching the series itself. But I don't have any expectations for number one Sentai Goes User. I just want it to be a good show. I might check out the first couple of episodes just because it looks incredible, like just from the poster alone. But I'm really eager to see a trailer of some sort. We should be getting one soon, though. I believe in December they're supposed to be having a press conference. So I expect, if anything, we'll probably talk about the trailer here and all the details once it winds up dropping. So I will at least highlight the news of the new Super Sentai before the season starts. So look towards Christmas for new details to start emerging, though. Do you have any expectations, Stuart?
No, like you, I also haven't been keeping up with Super Sentai as much as I used to. But I do got to give credit where credit is due. I did see the design of the outfits, and I think they look pretty awesome.
Wasn't the trailer for Superman amazing or what? It was awesome to see Crypto again. I only grew up with him through the Superboy cartoons as well as Crypto the Superdog. Let me tell you a quick story here, Blossom. I looked at my girlfriend the other day. I said, babe, did you check out the new Superman trailer? She says, oh yeah. She's like, I knew you probably had seen it already, so I thought it'd be okay if I checked it out. And she says, I love crypto. I just started laughing. She's such an animal person. She is like, the dog alone makes me want to see this movie. Because she's not a big Superman fan, but she is a big animal lover and a dog lover. And to be able to see crypto in this really kind of did it for her. And I did see this TikTok the other day that was like, there are 3 types of Superman trailer fans. One that people are like, oh, this is so hopeful and so joyful, and we're gonna go back to the kindness of Superman. The other one was Snyderverse fans, like, this isn't Henry Cavill, yada yada yada. And then the third one was like, oh my god, crypto, like the dog fans just like freaking out. It is a real thing, y'all. And so I'm really glad that crypto is gonna be in here, because it will reach another audience that maybe isn't necessarily Superman fans but know of crypto or dog lovers, and they're automatically gonna bring them in. So it is a thing for sure, Blossom.
I am happy to know that crypto, the thing that like a lot of directors have been too afraid to introduce is they thought, oh, maybe a super dog would be too silly for Superman. And I love how that's actually what's drawing a lot of like newer audiences in.
Yeah, and that's true. It is drawing new audiences in, and it is one of those, like, I get it, but then I look at something like Titans. The Titans series, they brought in crypto for a brief period of time. I didn't necessarily care how it worked, but to me, this is sometimes that separates movie lovers from comic book lovers. And I say that in a sense of Superman. This Superman movie feels like it's not afraid to really be influenced by comic books, and people will say, crypto is just so silly. How can you bring him into a movie? Bro, Superman flies around in a cape wearing pajamas with his underwear on the outside of him. Like, Superman should not work or be taken seriously, and yet it does. And so the fact that we already live in sort of this fantasy world of Superman, why not kind of embrace what Superman is just as silly as the concept of crypto? It's just a dog that can fly with a cape. And so it is one of those things where I do love that James Gunn is taking a swing and bringing a character like this to truly embrace his clear love for comic books and what Superman is kind of meant to be. And so I like the decision. I personally like the decision.
Same.
Peg C, what are your thoughts on the 4th Sonic movie already in development? I mean, if it works, keep going, man. I am surprised that Sonic continues to improve. There are times where I usually see the other way around, of them getting worse as it goes on. But those are the franchises that you got to strike while the iron is hot. And if they continue to pull out quality movies over and over that the fans want, why not? I am surprised at a 4th Sonic movie, but I guess maybe I shouldn't be with the success that it continues to have done. But yeah, man, I'm surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be at this point.
I would have been a lot more shocked if this was after the first movie and I found out that the franchise was going to be so successful they were going to have 4 movies and a spin-off show.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would never have thought about it, honestly. But yeah, thanks for the question. He also says, were you a fan of the music of New Kids on the Block as a kid? There are 3 New Kids on the Block songs that I remember. I can openly say I was not a fan of New Kids on the Block. I did know my babysitter's daughter was a huge fan of New Kids on the Block. Like, she had posters on her wall and everything. But New Kids on the Block was certainly a thing back in the 80s and really, really early 90s. They had 3 songs that always stuck out to me. You Got It, or I think that was, I don't remember if it was You Got It, Step by Step, and it was I think it was called Hangin' Tough. Hangin' Tough, dun, dun, dun. Hanging Tough. Oh, you're tough enough. Like, I don't remember. I just remember like 3 songs in general from them that really stuck out to me. Or maybe it's The Right Stuff. You got the right stuff, baby. Yeah. Right Stuff, You Got It, Step by Step, and Hanging Tough were like the 3 songs that I remember as a kid when it comes to New Kids on the Block. I can't believe you got me singing New Kids on the Block on this show, bro. But good job, Pexy.
Yeah, I don't think I listened to them that much, but you know, if I caught, like, for me, when I listen to music, I don't really keep up with bands per se. I just, like, when I listen to a song and I like it, I just add it to my playlist, and I don't look too much into the group or the band that did it.
Oh, I mean, what year were you born too, Stuart?
95.
So they were I mean, you were born way past their time, and I'm sure by the time you actually started getting into music, they were probably like a decade old.
Oh yeah,
or something like that, right? So I don't know, whether or not you went back and checked out music from them, I don't know, but yeah, probably a different time period for you too. Yeah, because when they came out, I was probably about like 7 or 8, so like I was really becoming aware of their music that was out there. Sam, number 1 Sentai goes, use those suits. It looks awesome. And the first female as a black Sentai. Yeah, that's pretty dope. I think she's got hints of black and pink. I don't know if people refer to her as a Pink Ranger or a Black Ranger, but I feel like more black than anything. So that makes sense to me. Did you ever watch the Wayans Brothers show and the Jamie Foxx show? If so, what were your initial thoughts on it? I didn't watch the Jamie Foxx show so much, but I did like the Wayans Brothers show. I can't remember if I watched it regularly or if it was something that when it was on, I would always watch it. But, Pops to me was always one of my favorite characters on the Wayans Brothers, just because he resembled the Pops from Friday so much. It almost felt like they took that character from Friday and just implanted him into the Wayans Brothers show. But it was a hilarious show. It was a really funny and great show. So I love the Wayans Brothers and Pops in there for sure. What were your thoughts on the Tango Warriors being brought over from the MMPR show to the TV show? How'd you feel about that, Stu?
Oh wait, those were the birds, soldiers, right? Yeah. Yeah, I was honestly kind of surprised because I thought the like with the movies with the movie, the 95 movie, from what I heard, they weren't allowed to use any of the props from the movie within the TV show, which means that they actually had to recreate them from scratch. And it's surprising how good they looked like on a TV budget.
Yeah, I thought, while I didn't care for the origin story when it translated to television series, I did think that they the Tango Warriors, from suit wise, actually looked pretty good for the television series. I was surprised that they did use them, but it was kind of cool. Like, to me, it was a solidification almost of like, oh, the movie is connected to the television world a little bit. So I'm glad that they got a chance to at least infuse them into the series in some capacity. Do you think we'll ever see, this is from Martin. What's up, Martin? Thank you so much, man. I want to say this is Martin's first time, or maybe we've seen Martin drop live viewer question before. Do you think we'll ever see Silver the Hedgehog in the Sonic movie franchise? Yeah, Stuart, do you think so? You're probably more the Sonic guy than me. I'm not too familiar with Silver, but with a 4th entry coming, are you familiar with Silver? Do you think we'll see him in the franchise?
So I know of Silver. I know that literally for his character description, he was literally just Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. But I never played Sonic 06, which was the game that he was in. But if they want to keep making the movies more and more epic, I guess like sooner or later you're going to have to get to the time travel stuff, like in the later Sonic games. So yeah, I could see him appearing in the next movie, even if not like maybe a movie afterwards. But yeah, I would say Silver's a huge possibility. It gives him a chance to take a story that just had a lot of potential, wasn't well written though in the game, and gives him a chance to completely rewrite it for a new audience and to actually fix the things that didn't work in his original entry.
Do you think is there any other characters you want to see in Sonic 4?
Ooh, I kind of want to see Amy in Sonic 4. The girl that constantly has a crush on Sonic and Sonic has like zero interest in. I would love to see that dynamic on the big screen. I always thought that she was a really funny character. I could go without Cream the Rabbit and her Chow though. I won't complain if they're in the next Sonic movie, but I don't really need them. I also wouldn't mind a Big the Cat cameo, like just have him there fishing. Don't give him like a big role in the movie or anything, just like in the background fishing. That'd be kind of funny. Yeah, I think those are the characters I'd love to see in Sonic sequels.
Yeah, Marcelino says Silver the Hedgehog is one of the most hated and despised characters in the franchise. He's basically Trunks from Dragon Ball, but bad. Okay.
Yeah, but I think the potential is there, so I think they could rewrite him and make him good.
He wants the bat. Sam says he wants the bat to join Shadow in Sonic 4. Was it
Oh, heck
Rouge?
yeah.
How do you
Rouge
pronounce
the
it?
Bat.
Rouge
Heck
the Bat.
yeah.
Let's see here. Can you do me a favor? Can you pull up the questions and see if you can get the full Power of the Morphing Grid question up? It's not giving me the more option.
Oh yeah.
And while you do that, I will jump to the next question. We'll come back to Power of the Morphing Grid. My friend calls me Joseph. What's up, Joseph? With the recent reports that Sony Marvel Universe may be ending or at least taking a break, Sony should shift gears and focus on what they're clearly great at, which is Miles Morales animated movie franchise. The Spider-Verse film has demonstrated that Sony can deliver high quality, visually stunning, and critically acclaimed animated superhero films and have created freedom. Animation allows for greater creative freedom in terms of storytelling, visuals, and character design. Maybe they should use the same magic they have with Miles Morales films and apply to other Marvel characters. They clearly have the best people right now working on the Spider-Verse franchise, so why not expand its universe even more by doing more solo films with other Marvel characters after Miles' installments come to a conclusion, and maybe down the road, if Sony chooses to continue live-action superhero films, just bring back the same creative team for the Spider-Verse franchise instead of bringing inexperienced people and clashing with the higher ups at Sony. Do you agree or disagree? I definitely agree with you, Joseph. I've been preaching to the high heavens for a long time. Like, Lord and Miller, I think, have done a remarkable job with the animated side. I think that they're still working with the television side too of Spider-Man. Something tells me that something has changed between Sony and and Lord and Miller's relationship. I don't know if they've left or I'll have to do some research, but I have always been a proponent of they clearly know what they're doing with the Spider-Verse stuff. You should just allow them to have full sort of creative control of just the Spider-Man rights in general, in the sense of like the creative direction that it goes when it comes to live action as well. But if they don't do that, I look, Miles Morales will eventually become the live action, maybe after Beyond the Spider-Verse, whether that be strictly just in the Sony world or if he's going to be moving over to the MCU. But if they do clearly do well when it comes to animation, and so in that regards, yeah, give me like a Spider-Gwen kind of series, maybe give me a 2099 animated film or something like that. I don't know. I just think there's a Ben Reilly anime. I just think there's so many great characters. Spider-Punk, like I think they could really tap into it. But again, as long as Lord and Miller are still around, I say let them continue to have the helm for animated and expand it even more to live action stuff, not just TV, but film as well. I don't know if Sony will ever really do that, but I think they've proven themselves to be able to take those reins. And I just don't know if Sony's willing to do it though. But I would agree with you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Power of the Morphing Grid, it's a bit of a long one, but it's Power Rangers, Overdrive Rangers Unseen Departure. This I didn't know about. The extended scenes from the 15th anniversary two-part crossover, Once a Ranger, that had recently surfaced on YouTube, I will definitely have to look those up later, would definitely have significantly enriched the Overdrive Rangers portrayal and likely softened the reception among fans. The original broadcast left a gaping hole in the Overdrive Rangers' motivation for leaving. It felt abrupt and selfish, making them appear ungrateful for their experience as Rangers after they had lost their powers. The extended scenes would have provided crucial context, explaining that their decision wasn't just about the lost powers, but also the impact that the Rangers' career had on their personal lives and career aspirations. The expanded bridge scene that was omitted would have added delightful layer of foreshadowing and connection, and connected Once a Ranger to the SPD timeline. It poked fun at Bridge's future and hinted at the exciting adventures that awaited him. The subtle inclusion of the birth of Kelson Henderson's fan favorite character Boom being born in 2007. Oh, I didn't know that was the thing that originally happened, and the opening scene would have been charming. It would have been a charming Easter egg for longtime fans, establishing a connection between the two eras of Power Rangers and adding a touch of meta humor, especially since Bridge himself has already referenced himself being born a week prior. By providing more depth and nuance to the Overdrive Rangers characters and their decisions, these extended scenes would have significantly lessened the negative fan backlash. Understanding their motives and consequences of them going back to their normal lives to only feel guilty would have fostered greater empathy and appreciation for their contribution as Rangers. One of the most pivotal scenes that didn't make the cut was a confrontation between Spencer and who was the Wise family friend and butler, and Hartfield's perspective on the situation. The scene would have given Andrew Hartfield a chance to defend his actions and explain his reasoning. It would have provided valuable insight on his process and the difficult choices he has faced as the leader of the Operation Overdrives. The conversation between Spencer and Andrew Hartfeld could have touched upon more important themes like responsibility, sacrifice, and the meaning of heroism. It would have encouraged viewers to consider the complexities of their leadership and challenge of making difficult decisions at times of crisis. This scene, along with other extended scenes, would have significantly enriched the narrative, provided in more nuanced, thought-provoking exploration of Operation Ranger's departure. It's a real shame that these scenes were cut. They would have undoubtedly improved the anniversary episode and enriched the overall Overdrive season. Jackie Markand, a highly respected writer in the Power Rangers franchise, has publicly expressed regret over the removal of the extended scenes from Once a Ranger. Her statement at a convention highlights these cuts significantly impacted the Overdrive Rangers portrayal and contributed to the negative reception that they received from fans. It's a testament to the importance of these scenes and how their absence created a nuisance and ultimately less satisfying narrative. Do you think Disney, if Disney had kept these scenes, your perception of the Overdrive Rangers and their decisions to leave Operation Overdrive would have been more forgiving? I could say right now, just from that, I haven't seen these extended clips, but I definitely want to look them up now. Yes, definitely. Because the main thing that I hated about Operation Overdrive as a season as a whole, and then you can definitely see it in the crossover two-parter, the editing is some of the most rushed things I've ever seen in Power Rangers, and that's saying something because I'm used to Power Rangers and fast editing, but the fast editing in Operation Overdrive is genuinely it almost makes the show unwatchable at times. And I think that if they kept those scenes in, you would have had a lot less of those issues. And then you say in your whole thing, it would have also made decisions feel less rash. It would have given more depth to the characters that was severely lacking in the original two-parter, and it would have actually given them somewhat of an arc. If they had actually kind of talked about what they were going through, having lost their powers after sacrificing a lot of their life to being Power Rangers. So yeah, just hearing that, it sounds a lot cooler, and it's too bad that Disney ended up making them take those scenes out, because I feel like one less fight scene, one more dialogue scene would have really gone a long way for this crossover episode.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have another long one here. Most talented man in the world. Discussion on reviving classic entertainment. What do you think of people being very annoyed and burnt out when it comes to classic TV shows and movies being revived or having sequels with original cast members being brought back? It's a huge trend these past few years. While many people are very annoyed, they don't have to watch it if they don't want to. It is important to know that it's always a great opportunity for actors to reprise their roles while they're still around. You're right. There's a mixed bag of reactions with classic TV shows and movies getting revived or having sequels. I just real quick before we continue, Malcolm in the Middle is being revived, I think.
That's right. For like a mini series.
Miniseries. Yeah, I think it's only like a 4-episode show, but they are bringing the original characters back. I've always personally, I don't want to say I've always enjoyed it, but I personally find it interesting because there is something about the evolution of a character, and especially if it's something that we as fans kind of grew up on, and now we get to see those characters back as our life has evolved. There's a part of me that does have that curiosity as to how those characters have kind of evolved. I definitely get the mixed bag reaction towards it, and I totally understand people that aren't fans of it, but there is something about being able to see these characters revisited and how their lives have certainly changed along with mine that I find interesting.
Yeah, I would actually fully agree with that, because that is why I like those type of revivals. And I get where people are coming from when they say, oh, I would rather have something original than just, rehashing the same thing that we've already seen. And to that, I kind of get, but at the same time, you got to realize that not a lot of people are watching new original stuff, and if we want more original stuff to come out, they have to go with the easy money first in order to basically use that extra money that they make to produce more original stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a decent reward and benefit of doing it, just because it has already its built-in fan base. Some projects may work in that way where you can get away with it. Others, you certainly may feel like, well, why are we doing this again? But I think something like Malcolm in the Middle, where it does have a fan base, people clearly grew up on that show for a really long period of time. Maybe not fully reviving it for like a brand new series. I kind of dig the idea of, hey, let's just do something really small, four episodes, really pay back to the fans for everything that they've, all the support over the years. Certain circumstances like that, I think, works because you have a built-in audience. Breakdown of some of the reasons for the annoyance: nostalgia baiting. Some feel that these revivals are purely driven by nostalgia and the desire to capitalize on pre-existing fan base rather than offering a compelling new story. I mean, I think sometimes you can get both of those: compelling new story, but also nostalgia. Creative risks. Revivals can sometimes feel creatively constrained, struggling to recapture the magic of the original while also appealing to modern audiences. Fear of ruining the legacy. Many cherished works hold a special place in people's hearts. Revivals carry the risk of tarnishing those memories with subpar sequels, reboots, or revivals. I never understood that one, though, personally. And maybe somebody has a good argument for it, but like when I hear things that people say, "Oh, you've ruined my childhood," like, really? like something modern and a new take, like you can't go back and just watch those and pretend like this new stuff just never happened. I mean, nobody's forcing you to watch this stuff, or like if you have a certain set of ideas of what these characters were and you don't want to see how they've changed, or new views that they certainly might have as they've grown up, I mean, that's certainly fine. But ruining I just never understood that concept, to me personally.
Yeah, like I get it if you disagree where the character ends up and you're like, that character, I don't see them ever making that kind of decision. Like you hear it a lot with people that didn't like The Last Jedi. Like personally, I didn't mind what they did with Luke and Last Jedi, but I get where people are coming from. But that being said, like even if it is something like you completely butcher a character, you make them do something completely uncharacteristic. I would never say it ruins my childhood, because I can still go back and watch, what came before. I can complain about how Dragon Ball Super, for example, they make Goku really, really dumb compared to how he was in Z, because it almost feels like he's more like Goku from Dragon Ball Z, the abridged series, than he is Goku from Dragon Ball Z. But it's not like they ruined Goku, because I can still go back to Dragon Ball Z and watch that version of Goku,
Yeah, it's not like I watched Dragon Ball Evolution and was like, I can never enjoy anything from Dragon Ball ever again. I don't think it ruined Dragon Ball's legacy in any capacity. I mean, the legacy is what it is. You know, it's cemented in stone. It's just a matter of how personal you take in some of this stuff, y'all.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Some believe that certain stories should be left alone, perfectly preserved in the original form. There are aspects I definitely agree in that hand. On the other hand, is also the perspective: give fans more. For dedicated fans, revivals can offer a chance to revisit beloved characters and worlds and potentially see new stories unfold within their established universe. I understand that. Supporting actors, it can provide continued work for the original cast members, which can be especially valuable for veteran actors. And then new perspectives. Sometimes revivals can offer fresh takes on classical stories, exploring themes and characters in new, interesting ways. Ultimately, it's a matter of personal preference. If a revival sounds intriguing, give it a try. If you're not interested, you're not obligated to watch. Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, sorry, speaking of new perspective, so I'd actually just it kind of popped to me. I think it was after the Superman trailer of what would make a pretty awesome reboot for the Power Rangers franchise, a good way to revive it. And it comes back to that quote that James Gunn says a lot about Superman being basically in the embodiment of kindness in a world where people have forgotten all about kindness. And it makes me kind of, think about with Power Rangers, the original Power Rangers team. Goody two shoes, they were never written to be characters you can relate to. They were always written as characters that kids could look up to, not relate to, right? And I think that if we were going to revive that, if we wanted to really be true to the spirit of Power Rangers, one way you could do that is bring in that kind of those type of characters where they have that goody two shoes mentality, but put them in kind of like a modern high school setting where that's not the case of everyone else at the school. So you make it so like you get characters that constantly want to do the right thing, but they're constantly challenged by like just kind of like the overall structure of school as a whole and things like that. I always thought that would be kind of a fun way to revive a series like Power Rangers. Or I say always, but I actually only just thought of this last week. So it's like it goes back to what you were saying, most talented man in the world, of how it adds new perspectives. Because I do like that idea of taking new perspectives on these ideas that may have worked at one time, but maybe don't mean the same thing, in the future. So I do definitely agree with that last bit. New perspectives is always like the main thing that I look forward to when it comes to a revival of a series.
Yeah, absolutely. I did miss some of what you said, so I do apologize about that. I froze out there. Sorry about that.
All good. I basically just pitched my idea for like a Power Rangers reboot.
Nice. And then last but not least, Sam. What's up, Sam? Have you seen Marvel What If Season 3? All heroes are using Zords. Yeah, the first episode I think the first episode is the Mecha Avengers going up against like a kaiju or something like that. I haven't seen the storyline itself or what it's based around, but I was revisiting the last 2 episodes of season 2 of What If last night, 1602, and then the finale. I'm probably going to rewatch those 2 and then jump into season 3 just to see how much of interconnection we certainly have going into the final season of What If. But yeah, episode 1 is the Mecha Avengers story.
That's awesome. They did basically Wacky Racers the previous season, so it just makes sense. And now they do Mecha Warriors.
He also says Superman trailer 2025 giant monster reminds me of one of the monsters in Ultraman, and Metamorpho looks like Zordon in the 2017 Power Rangers.
Oh my god, he does. I didn't think of that, but you're right.
At first when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, that's so cool, that's Brainiac, oh my god, that's awesome. And then somebody pointed it out on Twitter. I was like, it was Metamorpho. I'm like, oh my god. I think he looks fantastic, though. I think that's a brilliant up-close shot that they wind up using for him that just completely won me over. So I cannot wait to see what he looks like in live action more in this film.
Yeah, definitely. And I was surprised too, because I saw like in one of the set photos, there was a guy completely wearing a motion capture suit. Oh, yeah. And I assumed that was going to be Metamorpho, but then recently James Gunn said that Metamorpho was going to be mostly practical. And looking at that, it's like, yeah, that's not CG. That is all practical effects, and it looks amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to see what his overall powers are going to look like when we see like a full body shot of him. And I'm wondering too, does he get created by Lex Luthor in this world? as like kind of a defense against Superman, because he, out of all the characters we see so far, he is the one that could theoretically kill Superman.
Real quick, shout out to Nick Cash. Thank you so much, Nick, for certainly coming through for the live. We are about to wrap up, but thank you so much for certainly coming through and hitting us with that like button. Yeah, I am kind of curious. I know briefly, James Gunn did mention that there is another character that pops up in the trailer that most people miss, and it's the engineer. And she's in this trailer. She is in the trailer, but super tiny, super tiny. It's the scene where you get the Luthor Corp logo, and she's literally under it on what looks to be the bridge that connects the two towers together. She's like a little speck, but you could see her kind of walking along the top of it. So maybe she's doing some repairs to Luthor Corp's building or whatever the case may be, but she is certainly in there. But yeah, I am curious to see how they bring Metamorpho to life in here. Whether or not it's somebody that Lex Luthor created, or what his origin story. I hope they give some insight into it when it comes to his origin here in this movie. But I'm excited. I'm excited for Superman 2025, and you guys will find out where it lands on our most anticipated list for 2025. That video again will be dropping next Monday for you guys, so certainly stay tuned. But that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today, y'all. So thank you everybody that certainly participated and giving us some great stuff to comment on today. We definitely appreciate you.
Definitely.
Yeah, while we wrap up that, I'm trying to think if we have any other projects. Yeah, so Monday we are dropping our most anticipated 2024 films ranked in the order and how we enjoyed them. And then, we usually have our Skeleton Crew review on Wednesday, but Wednesday is in fact going to be Christmas. So I don't know. Were you able to get off Thursday at all, Stuart, or maybe Friday, or have my shifts with you? I don't know.
I have not at this moment, but what I will do is Thursday, if I cannot get anyone to switch with me, I will record a 5-minute summary of my thoughts on the episode, and then I will just basically kind of send it to you so you can play it at some point during the review.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that for sure. In case you're not able to join us, I will reach out to Will and Crystal and see if they're still down for Thursday evening to knock that out. So expect the live Skeleton Crew episode 5 later on this weekend, and then hopefully next Saturday have ready for you Creature Commandos episode 5 review as well, and really on any other news that might drop throughout the week. But Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Instagram and Letterboxd. And of course, you guys can always find me here every Sunday at A+ Hero Report. Hopefully, obviously with it being Christmas this Wednesday, that'll be an exception. But then hopefully the next 2 Wednesdays after that, you will also find me here talking about Star Wars Skeleton Crew.
I'm hoping hopefully we'll still be able to have a live episode next Sunday on the 29th for Hero Report. I don't know what your plans are for the weekend. I don't know what my plans are for the weekend yet, but I still plan on having a live episode next Sunday for you guys, so certainly look forward to that. If you want to follow us on social media, anywhere that you see down here at A+ Opinions, we do have some links in the description box below to our TikTok at Hero Report, along to our BlueSky handle if you want to follow us on BlueSky as well. Also a link to our Discord forum if you like your forum communities. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button. It's absolutely free for you guys. Hit the bell notification so when new videos do drop, you'll get notified. And feel free to share these videos. We definitely would appreciate that. And if you want to definitely stay close and connected to us, our Facebook page is also a great way as well. All throughout the week, we keep you posted on updated news, posters, trailers, behind the scenes images, featurettes, all throughout the week. And then we usually take those topics and then talk about them here on A+ Hero Report on our YouTube channel. So follow us everywhere on social media, but that will do it for us. We'll certainly see you guys next weekend. Enjoy your holidays. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Happy holidays. And we'll see you guys next Sunday. Until then, do us a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.